Alright, we're alive. Holy shit. So, let's get this going. So, first of all, before we start, I want to make something very, very clear. I am not showing anything that is not publicly available, and I am not monetizing this. So, we should be good on that front. Pretty sure I'm not doing anything bad, technically speaking. So I usually maintain a pretty level head with everything that I make, but since this is a little more personal, I'm going to share my personal feelings on this. Empress Theresa is garbage. I remember when I first discovered it, I was personally insulted because I was writing a book myself, and I saw it, and I saw the hubris of this man, and I could not restrain myself. I was very frustrated. So this stream is more a response than the original video was. So first I want to say, I discovered something really, more than what was in the video. Things that I probably should have mentioned in the video, outside of the book. I did not include any snippets from the book, which might have been a mistake, but I'm here to rectify that. But before we get to the book itself, I want to share with you something more that I discovered. So let's check it out. Alright, it's showing. Good. Stream health's good. No dropped frames. We're chill. So, this is the... I'm going to bring the music down. I can't think with this going. So this is the Amazon page for Norman Boutin's masterpiece, Empress Theresa. I remember seeing this for the first time, and this was my first impression, right here, and I freaked out a little bit. Second thing I saw was this description. And before we really dig into anything else, let's go ahead and see his Amazon description. In Chapter 2, Theresa is a star baseball pitcher in high school. Internet trolls viciously attack her on the internet. A teacher tells Theresa why they do that, and she understands. ... I saw why the trolls were angry. They knew they couldn't go where I was going. I'd have a good life. They wouldn't. ... Internet trolls have something in common with the KKK. This is new. What is this? I didn't see this before. Internet trolls have something in common with the KKK, neo-Nazis, white supremacists, and other hate groups. They don't... Oh boy. They don't have a good life. And no, they never will because they don't have it in them. So they hate and destroy. ... In Chapter 1, 10-year-old Theresa admits she doesn't have a clue about anything, but 9 years later she confidently says, I can do anything. How did I come so far, she asks herself, and considers a list of influences on her life. She had good parents and family support. She had natural gifts of beauty and intelligence. She has a good, loyal husband. Like any good 18-year-old girl, holy shit. But the most important influence are her own actions. I'm very simple. I follow my conscience. I am what I do. This is new. I haven't seen this yet. This is incredible. What is Empress Theresa about? If I wrote it correctly, it's about you. A teenage Catholic girl from Massachusetts acquires limitless power over the whole world. Okay, this is the standard summary. What will she do with it? What would you do with it? On page 2, Theresa sums up the human situation in a single sentence. We're lost in this confusing world unless we follow the directions of its maker. Theresa knows that the world is not a complete explanation of the world. There's a lot more. Okay, this gives her the strength to get through everything. You want a strong female? Try Empress Theresa. Try rephrasing that. After reading page 1, no, never mind that. After reading the second paragraph on page 1, you know that nothing will stop this girl. In the cultural wasteland of today's heartless media, Empress Theresa is a breath of fresh air. Show it to your 8-year-old daughter and show it to your grandmother. They'll both enjoy it. See, this particular ellipsis, or like, wait a minute, these are actually ellipses. Look at this. I'm highlighting them. He just threw 2 ellipses together, but all of these are periods. Okay. But this makes it sound so ominous. Show it to your 8-year-old daughter and show it to your grandmother. They'll both enjoy it. It's like this book is the literary version of The Ring. Empress Theresa is a very different kind of story, incorporating situations never seen before. It is a beautiful story of how Theresa deals with her impossible problems, and how people react to her. It is full of meanings, for Theresa doesn't act like this world is all there is. I was sure I was immortal, and that gave me courage. Okay. I just realized I need to copy pasta this onto Twitter. Alright. It begins. Okay, done. Fixed. This is a book about a heroic teenage American girl winning against impossible odds and changing the world. So is Empress Theresa a young adult novel? Not really. Okay. Tell us what it is, please. Theresa doesn't deal with the problems of a teenager's life. She deals with problems that involve all humanity. It should be called an old adult novel, because old people, having seen everything, will see its meaning. It has themes seldom seen in other books, but the story itself is worth reading just as a story. ... Ellipsis, ellipsis. Description. What? I thought this was the description. Theresa, I'm forgetting how much I hated this. Okay, Theresa is honest, courageous, brilliant, loved by everybody. Right, this was in the video. Even China wants her to take herself out of danger. Like, I like to imagine this is a little bit of the writer's, like, bias coming into the book. Like, he thinks China, like, he read about Mao. He read about Chairman Mao, and he decided that, like, China was the most evil thing in the world, and so he just had to include this bit. Happily married, powerful but harmless, thoughtful of others' welfare, not just her own. A believer in God and an inspiration to the young and old. She attacks impossible problems. I think that's the second time the word impossible has been shown in quotations. With everything she's got, and she never gives up. Ellipsis, ellipsis. Empress Theresa is what some people would consider impossible. A book about a good girl with no sex. Good girls don't have sex. Foul language or violence, but still giving the reader an action-filled, fascinating story. Do something good. Give young people something worth reading. Oh, fuck, I need tea. I'd also like to point out that the first thing that comes up in customers who viewed this item also viewed is my book. I'm not sure how I feel about that, but we'll roll with it. So, like I said, I discovered something. So the first thing I want to explain to you guys is that one of Norman's big inspirations for Empress Theresa was, fuck. You know what? I'm just going to open it. Joan of Arc. Joan of Arc was one of his big inspirations. So much so that in the mid-2000s, what was it, 2005? He wrote an essay about her. But it's not about how good she was. It's not about how, like, interesting her life was. Uh-oh. Is the link broken? Oh, please no. Please, 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 please work. Please work. Okay, well, while it loads... Fuck. Please work. So, So he wrote an essay not on Joan of Arc, not about like her life, but about how she died. She was burned at the stake, but he makes the argument that she did not die from the fire, she died from heat exhaustion. And this yes, it loaded! This is a very important point to him, and he spends a whole essay. See, here we go. She passed out from heat stroke before the fire reached her. And this is so important to him that he wrote this whole essay all about the information he could gather and using his very basic grasp of thermodynamics. We will hit that, by the way. I don't understand it, but this person has, like, Norman Boutin has a consistent misunderstanding of thermodynamics. And we'll get to it. I don't want to spoil anything, but we'll get to it when we get to the book. So he goes through this whole diatribe about how she would have died from heat exhaustion or heat stroke before the fire reached her. And it goes on for a while. You know, he makes some interesting points. I cannot verify their veracity because, like, I'm willing to do the research. I'm not willing to do it for him. So we're going to give him the benefit of the doubt. Sure, she died from heat stroke instead of the fire directly. Not that it makes a ton of difference. So as this goes on, I read most of this essay, as it goes on, it gets more manic. See, this paragraph contains truly insane material. You should skip it and go on to the next paragraph. The only purpose of this one is to show how wrong we were to believe the shameless book writers and movie producers who try to convince us what could not happen did. Joan should not have to wait another 600 years for somebody to tell the truth. Okay, you've been warned. The other way to get the fire to win the race is to light it under the victim. And so it just keeps going like this. Let's see, para D1, this is another source. This is a ridiculous story told by a single witness, and it seems incredible that nobody else mentions it. So, why is this so important to him? Like, let's address this. So, like, to anyone else, it's like, okay, she died from heat exhaustion, or heat stroke, or she died from the fire itself. Why does that matter? I'm going to read you the very end. This is from my reply to Peter's email. I hadn't let's see, where is it actually? I want to make sure this is what I'm looking for. Here we go. This is from my reply to Peter's email. I hadn't put this into the discussion previously because I thought it was too insultingly too obvious to include. Apparently it isn't. You wonder how Joan could still maintain enough control of herself to say the name of Jesus in a loud and clear voice when the fire has already burned off her skin, her fingernails, her toenails, tip of her nose, and her eyelids. That's pretty courageous for anybody, let alone a 19-year-old girl. Amen. If you object to this paragraph, I guess you don't want children to be told Jesus was nailed to a cross for 3 hours. I'd rather be burned alive. It only takes 3 minutes. Let's see. I believe, so then it goes on, though I will not go into the details of Joan's physiologic responses to her environment. They are outlined in the conclusion. The important points to remember about her responses are their necessity under the circumstances, their immediate activation for the many reasons given above, and their necessary completion from the time factors explained earlier. Here's his capstone. I believe this should be enough to remove any doubt about what happened to Joan of Arc. Nobody with a heart, brain, and conscience can now say she was killed by the fire. We can think about Joan without being saddened. If she had to do it all over again, she'd do it. It's not wrong to tell children Joan only went to sleep. That is exactly what she did. This is of personal stake to him. He needs to know that she did not suffer excessively in her death so he can think about her and how good of a girl she is. So this is 2002. Excuse me, I thought it was more like 2005. And I think this really offers a clue into Norm's psychology, like what's going on in his head. And I think that this is a really good lens through which, I'm making hand gestures and nobody can see them, but I think this is a really good lens through which we can understand his mentality. Empress Theresa is more than a Mary Sue. I think that she is an avatar of Joan of Arc to Norman Boutin. So now let's go to the main website of Empress Theresa. This is empresstheresa.com/home. This is the home page. Let's just read it. Oh yeah, there's an update. So I haven't read this. I'm going to go over this with you guys. So, Norman Boutin. This is how he opens the site. I didn't do anything and people want me dead. It's wrong. Why do people do the wrong thing? So this is clearly displaying some of the glory of late 90s web design. Empress Theresa, I didn't do anything and people want me dead. It's wrong. Why do people do the wrong thing? That's right here. Asks 18-year-old Theresa on live television before 4 billion viewers after the president of France says 1,000 assassins will be after her. Prime Minister Blair gives a partial answer. People who have no conscience think everybody lacks one. They fear you. Empress Theresa will try to find the full answer. The great men in history understood that they couldn't do it all alone. They needed the invincible ally. In the cultural wasteland of today's heartless media, Empress Theresa is a breath of fresh air. Oh, yep, this is from the About page. Show it to your 8-year-old daughter and show it to your grandmother. Missing the ellipsis. I'm disappointed. Empress Theresa is now in a print edition on Amazon. Please note, so this is new. This is from about a month ago. An updated version of the book is available on Amazon starting August 3rd, 2017. The new version corrects typos, replaces some words with better ones, and adds some lines. If it was up to me, I would just replace all of his words with words from another book. Oh, this white tea is not calming me. For example, minutes after the Sunday night talk between Theresa and Prime Minister Blair on live television before 4 billion viewers, President Veronica Stinson is the first to make a public statement defining the new situation. When we face invincible threats to our lives and well-being, this is new, by the way, this is new content. When we face invincible threats to our lives and well-being, we feel a loss of influence to what happens to us. We're helpless and impotent. In desperation, we support a hero who promises to save us. For some, it was Napoleon. For others, Lenin, Hitler, or Senator McCarthy. Okay. John McCarthy right next to Lenin and Hitler. All right. Now we look at Theresa Hartley. But while the 4 men I mentioned had their own agenda, Theresa is working for a higher cause. She will submit her will to a higher will. Let us look forward with confidence and trust. Theresa is fighting for us. So, I'm going to teach you something pretty neat. If you are a writer, or you just write essays, you're in college or something, there is a very easy way to improve your writing with almost no effort. Make sure that your sentences do not use the same number of words multiple times in a row unless it's done for intent. So you see, but while the 4 men I mentioned had their own agenda, Theresa is bringing for a higher cause. She will submit her will to a higher will. Let us look forward with confidence and trust. Theresa is fighting for us. They're all similarly sized sentences, all 3 of these. If you could combine them, or expand some of them, or make some of them even smaller, like just vary the sentence length, you can make it so much better and more entertaining to read. I'm telling you this because I don't want you guys to be new Normans. Please. Important update. Oh, shit. Oh, no. So, I I don't know if I mentioned this in the video. I don't think I did. He got banned from Amazon, from posting on Amazon completely. He could not respond directly to reviews anymore. And I just now realized what he did. He started responding on his website. Oh my god. This is how vindictive he is. He has to get a word in. This is why that whole comment chain went for 10,000. 10,000 comments, I mean. Somebody wrote this Amazon listing review on June 13th, 2007. Quote, "This is the single worst book I've ever read. I didn't buy it because you don't deserve the money. I downloaded a free version and slogged through the perverse, lewd, disgusting Christian propaganda that is this book. Please just never write anything ever again. Ever." Well, that says it all, doesn't it? Perverse, end quote. Well, this says it all, doesn't it? Perverse, lewd, disgusting Christian propaganda. Have you ever seen anything that blasphemous? None of the dozens of other trolls objected to this remark. These people hate anything that even mentions God. You saw his words. So, I don't know if okay, no, I'm not going to go there. I'm not going to go there. The truth is, not a single Christian doctrine is mentioned in the entire book. Theresa never mentions who God is or what he does. That's a lie. He's lying to you, and I can prove it, and I'm going to prove it in a minute. I'm going to get there. I'm going to get there. An alien Okay. I need to calm the hold on. I'm going to take a sip of tea. Okay. And an alien from another planet would have no idea what Theresa's religion was. If all the references to God in the book were gathered in one place, they would take up 1.5 pages out of 466 pages. I'm sorry? Theresa never mentions who God is or what he does. If all the references to God in the book were gathered in one place, it would take up... Is he saying... So is he saying that just Theresa never mentions it? Like, Theresa in particular never mentions God? Is that what he's saying? That it's like, other people mention God, but Theresa never mentions God, and therefore it's okay? Is he trying to win by pedantry? Anyway, that's 99.7% secular, purer than ivory soap, but that's not enough for these atheist trolls. It seems that Amazon allows people a free look at the Kindle edition. This permits people like the cheapskate non-believer to white trash reviews. That stops now. I'm deleting the Kindle edition. So, if you wanted an ebook, I'm sorry. I am 2 months or like a month and a half too late to tell you guys. In chapter 2, Theresa is wow. This moved. I'm sorry I'm delaying the book so much, but I'm just taken. In chapter 2, Theresa is a star baseball pitcher in high school. Internet trolls viciously attack her on the internet. A teacher tells Theresa why they do that, and she understands. Yeah, we've already been over this. Alright, here he is just replying to more reviews. First draft was completed in January 2010. It had 142,000 words. The current version has 109,000 words. Holy shit. Does anyone else notice this? The current version has 109,000 words, a decrease of 130 pages, although no situations were deleted. That's editing. That's editing. That's... Oh my fucking god. Oh my god. How? Like... there's a part of me that, like, this, so everything else, I was convinced that someone could really do, but this, like, there's no way that this isn't an elaborate troll at this point. I don't know, like, did this really just fly over his head? Oh my god. Okay. Let's continue. An impromptu. Okay, so he keeps quoting his book. I think this is just gonna go on like this, just kind of praising Theresa, like about an 18-year-old American girl, married, might I note, who acquires enormous power, becomes the most important person on Earth, and then he goes back to internet trolls. Oh shit! Right. The list. Why do internet trolls fear and hate Empress Theresa? Decide for yourself. Choose one or several. Thanks, Bob Ross. Theresa is a good girl. Theresa follows her conscience. Theresa believes in God, although apparently she doesn't mention him throughout the entire book. Theresa is beautiful. Theresa is very intelligent. Theresa has a sense of humor. Theresa has a great personality. Theresa is gonna get fondled by Norman Boutin. Theresa easily attracts boys in college. What? What? How is... Why would you, like, I thought she was supposed to be a good Catholic girl. Why is that one of the positive points? Holy I'm thinking I shouldn't have brewed tea and gotten myself whiskey instead. Holy. Theresa avoids the common problems of youth, drinking, drugs, bad friends, and so on. Though apparently she still enjoys attracting boys. Theresa succeeds in her endeavors. Theresa is courageous, even to the point of death. Theresa has empathy for others. Theresa puts herself in danger for others. Theresa saves the world. Theresa makes the world a better place. Theresa never harms anyone. Theresa uses thousands of times as much energy as the human race has used since Adam and Eve. Theresa has more power than all the world's armies combined. Theresa could be a world dictator, but leaves everybody alone. Which of these do the internet trolls fear and hate the most? Internet trolls are not literary critics. Okay, more... Holy shit. This is like some 1984 level stuff. Like, it's like Norman read 1984 and saw Big Brother as the good guy. Holy. Okay, so more trolls. Let's see, more quoting his own book. Hold on a minute. Stop. If people give your past, rejoice in the good you didn't. Okay. Mr. Blair, this is my Mr. Blair. On page 1, Theresa describes herself as a 10-year-old. When I was a little girl, I didn't have a clue about anything. All right, more quotes. Impossible problems. Finally! Near the end of the story, as present, I'm very simple. I follow my conscience. I am what I do. A teaser from page 202. More quotes from the book. Holy Jesus. Okay, we're, you know what? I think we're done here. Wait a minute. What? Wish I knew what caused the... Hold on a minute. Let's see. When visitors look in at this website, their locations are listed for me for a few minutes. I catch a small number of them, probably less than 1/100th of 1%. Oh no. He thinks he's popular. This is even more Chris Chaney than I thought. Here are visitors' locations from outside the United States. Most of the international visitors look in the middle of the night when I'm asleep. The city isn't always given. All right, Ireland. Why are some of these in red? Let's see. Wow, all these international visitors showed up just today. Like, oh, all right, all these places. That was just in the last 50 minutes. Wish I knew what caused the excitement. Wait a minute. August 9th. So, the worstThingsForSale.com. Empress Theresa. This was 22nd of December 2014. 12th of July 2015. Okay, so the date doesn't line up exactly. So that is curious, actually. Why did he suddenly get a ton of people looking? We get to discover together, everyone. So, alright, so just more stroking... Okay. You know where I'm going with that. So I'd like to point out two things. First of all, he posted a study guide to Empress Theresa so that you could read it in the, like, you could take it to a classroom and teach everyone about how good Empress Theresa, I mean Joan of Arc, I mean Empress Theresa was. But this is what I'm more interested in. Author's review. He reviewed his own book. He reviewed his own book. Why? Why would any author ever do this? Like, nobody prompted him. Nobody said, hey, Norman, what's your book like? He just did this. Alright, you guys want to read his review of Empress Theresa? His review of his book. I like how I can see the delay, by the way. Like, I point out something ridiculous and then chat just explodes. Alright, let's go over this together, shall we? I have not read this. This is completely new to me. I don't know what I'm in store for. If an author reviews his own work, he must not wander far from the facts. I'll try to remember that. If an author reviews his own work, he's doing the wrong thing. First of all, here's a very brief review from Iggy on the Amazon listing. Nice work, Norman Boutin. Keep up the good work. I enjoyed the story thoroughly. Short as it is, it said everything I hoped for. You mean he just stroked your ego? Iggy enjoyed the story thoroughly. An author could not want anything more than that. Excuse me. When I was young, it seemed that life was so wonderful. A miracle. Okay, I don't remember all the lyrics to that song. When I was young, I read some stories that I thoroughly enjoyed and couldn't get enough. If you've had that experience, you know the feeling I try to share with other people. I wrote Empress Theresa with that feeling in mind. Is this just another pitch for his book? This isn't even a review. Nearly all works of fiction are about characters trying to work their way through a minefield of irresistible, immutable forces. Empress Theresa is about an individual's endeavors, changing history and making the world a better place. A story written solely for the purpose of being a story must have a... Okay. Hold on. I'm gonna give you guys all you, people in college or high school or middle school right now, do not start an essay like this. I'm sure all of you know, since the beginning of time, this is the equivalent. Nearly all works of fiction, the scope is too broad. Don't do this. Don't be Norman. Here's your motivation to write better essays in school. Don't be Norman. A story written solely for the purpose of being a story must have a limited audience, the group of people interested in that kind of story. Empress Theresa aims at a larger audience. The meaning of the kind of person Theresa is applicable to all people. Notice that she has no job. Notice that she has no job. Be like Empress Theresa. Go on Social Security. She is a student with only 1 year of college. She could be anybody. What the story says about human nature is more important than the plot specifics and addresses all people's needs. At the beginning of Chapter 5, Prime Minister Blair tells Theresa the world population is threatened with starvation. Only Theresa can stop it. She doesn't like this turn of events. Alright, more quote from the book. All I wanted to do was be a high school math teacher. Alright, I feel like running away. You couldn't stop me. I know we couldn't. All I wanted to do was be a high school math teacher. You can teach millions something more important. When the world falls apart around us, we look within ourselves and find ourselves. Show us what's within you. I had no response to that. How did I know what was within me? Nothing could have prepared me for this kind of challenge. But Theresa is wrong. We know she's prepared because we've already seen what's within her. The first 4 chapters showed she was raised in a good family environment. She has no attitudes or axes to grind. She believes in, this should be plural, she believes in something greater than herself, which is essential to being a full human being. Such a person is the most effective. She is courageous even in the face of what she believes is certain death. So, this is just exactly the same as the homepage. Like, is anyone else getting that sensation? Like, that's all it is. Chapter 2 is found on the Amazon listing, but Chapter 3 is in the Amazon Kindle edition. Chapter 4 is on the website. Yada, yada. Yeah, it's just him trying to pitch Empress Theresa more. Alright. Well, let's look at the study guide. Maybe there's something more interesting. In 1852, Charles Dickens wrote about his scorn for the coxcomical, conceited, foolish dandyism, pretentious foppery, ideas of writing down to the popular intelligence. He respected the public and noted the working class often knew more about Shakespeare and Milton than gentlemen. 7 years later, he wrote A Tale of Two Cities. Let's see, in today's parlance, Dickens might say he wouldn't be politically correct to make himself popular. Yada yada. Every claim I make about Empress Theresa on this website or anywhere can be confirmed by the book. Okay, so it's just him selling his book more. It's just him giving quotes and talking more about how Empress Theresa is a good Catholic girl. The major theme is the stories that good people do good in the world. That's it! What? This whole website! All 3 of these pages is just him pitching his book. No. No. Norman, no. This is not okay. You don't get to do this. Like, this isn't a study guide. This is you jerking off Empress Theresa. Holy shit. Okay, good, that's muted. It's not. Alright. So, that was, at once, all of this was both fascinating, enlightening, and kind of disappointing. So, we're 40 minutes in. Maybe we should get to the book. Oh, God. All right, authors, if ever you need to, if ever you need to justify any of your writing, like, oh, don't worry, it gets better later, you have there's a name for that. It's just called bad writing. If you ever need to make excuses for your writing, it's bad. Fix it. You can write interesting introductions. It's possible. Can we get this trending on Twitter? Hashtag don't be like Norman. Or no, just don't be Norman. Hashtag don't be Norman. If you're a writer, please, help contribute to the body of work like, around not writing like Norman. All right. Now, this I've read. I will confess that the actual chapter 1, I've read. Chapter 4, I don't think I got to. There was a bunch on the Kindle page that I was able to read. So, author's note. This chapter sets up the story. Chapters 2 and 3 will show Theresa's maturation into a teenager and introduce Steve Hartley, who will be critical to the story. The action will begin in Chapter 4. It's cliché to put a murder, explosion, or something of that nature on page 1 to grab the reader, but in Empress Theresa, the characters are the most important element of the story. The eye-popping scenes will take care of themselves later. Alright, hashtag don't be Norman. You can have interesting things in the introduction. That's not taboo. It is not cliché to write a good story. It is not cliché to write a story that people enjoy. It's okay. The bad words won't hurt you. They can't hurt you. They're just words. God, I was not expecting to get this worked up today. Empress Theresa by Norman Boutin. Chapter 1. I'm Theresa, the younger daughter of Edward and Elizabeth Sullivan, and I hope it's not bragging to say I was cute as heck. Holy shit. Norman is so infatuated with Theresa that he cannot help but talk about how great she is in her own voice. In the first line. Someone just asked, did I buy Empress Theresa? No. I refused to give him money. Everybody in the... Alright. I hope it's not bragging to say I was cute as heck at age 10. Everybody in the family said so. Oh, I was the... I was the princess! Holy shit! I forgot this! How have I forgotten this? I was the princess. Oh, this is incredible. This is so deep into Mary Sue territory. It's unbelievable. I was the princess in the Sullivan can of Framingham, Massachusetts, because besides being cute, gotta reiterate that, in the third line, I was a whiz in school and had a good disposition. 2 spaces. Is this the edited version? Did he go back to this website? I'd have to think so, because he changed the homepage. He added an update. All of the relatives expected great things from me. Nobody could have dreamed of what I would do a few years later, and nobody would have believed it if they'd been told. Prime Minister Blair said I'd still be remembered in a million years. Did you catch that? Churchill, Hitler, and Lincoln will be footnotes in dusty history books 1,000 years from now. And nobody remembers Charles Martel, who saved Christianity in Europe by winning the Battle of Tours 1,300 years ago to set up the world as we know it today. But Prime Minister Blair said I'd be remembered for a million years. Whew. Yeah, because we've forgotten people like Shaka Zulu, right? Uh-huh. Okay. I'm sure Prime Minister Blair is a very wise person. Mr. Blair is not inclined to exaggerating. I was the last person you would expect to earn that accolade. I was a nobody from nowhere. Wow. Is there, Mary Sue Bingo? Is there a Mary Sue Bingo card? Hold on. I'm gonna look this up. Mary Sue Bingo. There are. Alright, the first thing that comes up is Mary Sue Bingo by Glitter Candy. Alright, let's see. Open image, new tab. Does it get any bigger? It's kind of small. Man, now I wish... Okay, you know what? Ah, I wish I had an edit video. I wish it'd be easier to, like, start checking that off. Holy crap. I was not prepared. Alright, so guys, find a Mary Sue, like, bingo chart. And if you get a bingo, just let me know. I was the tweet it out or something. Hashtag don't be Norman. I was the last person you would expect to earn that accolade. I was a nobody from nowhere. When this story began, I was a little girl who didn't have much of a clue about anything. My job as a kid was to figure out what the heck was going on and what to do about it. It's not easy when you're young and everything is brand new. My father once served a tour in the Navy. He said I had to be the captain of my ship, but sometimes the seas would be rough. Excuse me. I had to learn all I could about the world. I wondered why should I be worrying about it in 4th grade? I'd soon find out. We're lost in this confusing world unless we follow the directions of its maker. Norman, I thought you said she never talked about God. No, we're going back. Guys. Fucking no. No. Theresa never mentions God, who God is, or what he does. I'm sorry, what? We're lost in this confusing world unless we follow the directions of its maker. Who are you talking about? Are you talking about, like, the All-Father from Norse mythology? Are you talking about, like, some other god? Who is this maker? Theresa Hartley, who is this maker? Enlighten me. We're lost in this confusing world unless we follow the directions of its maker. I did. It's the only thing that got me through. Everybody has pressures. There are 2 kinds. One is threats to your life and health. I had more than my share of that with 1,000 assassins wanting to get me. The other kind is bearing responsibility for other people's lives and welfare. That's really tough if you care about them. I set new world records in that department. People were sure I'd crack under the pressure, but I didn't. It will take smarter heads than mine to figure out why not. Remember what I said about having sentences of similar length? I would like you to observe this whole paragraph. The only sentence that isn't of a similar length to the others is this one. All of the others are of approximately the same length. I'd be telling my own story, which is a good thing because nobody knows it as well as me. Okay. The drawback is that there are, like, isn't this a tautology? The drawback is that there are some things I can't know because I wasn't there. For example, Prime Minister Blair and President Stinson mentioned they talked to each other on the phone. They must have talked with many other heads of state, as it would be interesting to know what was said. It's a sure bet they discussed how to eliminate me if I got out of control, but I can't know any of that. It can be frustrating not knowing these things, but remember, you'll learn things in the same sequence I did. Like... Alright, hashtag don't be Norman. Don't talk down to your readers. Even if you're writing for children, don't talk down to them. You don't have to. Somebody else telling my story could only say what I did in the world. They couldn't get in my head like you will. You'll see what a horrible worldwide mess I had to deal with. My story began quietly with no hint of what was coming. I was home with my 17-year-old sister, Catherine, who was old enough to be my babysitter. She made it possible for Mom to go back to her part-time... 2 spaces. Job without leaving me alone. 2 spaces. I'd like to point out... So, 3 spaces? Why is this so inconsistent? What? And then this is like... Oh, it's the current... Why is this 3 spaces? Okay, so, history note. The reason that some people believe that you're supposed to put 2 spaces in between a period and the next sentence is because that's what you used to have to do with typewriters. Since the invention of the computer, it's not necessary. Don't put 2 spaces after your sentences. It is technically incorrect. I don't know what 3 spaces is. All right. Catherine hadn't been a whiz in school like me, and she was thinking of going to one of the many trade schools around Boston after high school. Mom and Dad said I should go to college. Oops! Before going on, I have to mention an odd incident that happened 6 months before I was born. Mom was raking leaves in the backyard when she noticed a fox sitting on its haunches 10 feet away. It was staring at her. Okay, so this is another hallmark of bad writing, is giving exact distances. Like, this isn't D&D. Like, you're not playing a tabletop RPG. You don't have to give exact distances. You just have to know it was sitting at the edge of the lawn. It was sitting, like, on a fence, on the other side of a fence. Like, that's all fine. I want to grab Norman by the scruff of the neck and tell him, dude, you don't have to start with your magnum opus. To 3 spaces again. Why? I wonder if it's actually like a, if he screwed up the CSS or the HTML on the site, because it looks like he made this himself. Let's see. Mom was raking leaves in the backyard when she noticed a fox sitting on its haunches 10 feet away. It was staring at her. A metal rake is a good weapon against a creature as small as a fox. And Mom held her ground. I'll keep that in mind. If I ever see a fox, I will grab a metal rake. Self-defense lessons with Theresa Hartley. After 5 minutes, the fox walked away. Yeah, wait a minute. Did they just stand off for 5 minutes? Like, were they staring longingly into each other's eyes? Again, you don't have to be so specific with time. This strange event seemed unimportant. My parents forgot about it for 18 years. Okay, now I can begin my story. Oh good, I'm so glad we're finally getting to the beginning of the book. Our house was next to a pond close to the river where all the neighborhood's kids spent many happy hours looking for turtles and frogs. I was lounging on the deck reading a book on the school summer list. Catherine was inside reading a magazine. Taking a momentary break from the book, I noticed a red fox walking along the pond's edge. It disappeared behind the little patch of woods which Dad let grow wild, like most of the neighbors. This was very rare. Red foxes were never seen in broad daylight during the summer months. It didn't happen. Like, I get what he's going for here, but it just sounds like he's redacting everything he just said. Like, none of this happened. Then something really amazing happened. It came out of the woods and walked toward me. I kept still and waited to see how close it came before noticing that it was frothing at the mouth. It bit me. I died 1 week later. It was 60 feet away, 40, 20, like, again with the specific distances. Like, unless this is a, like, space battle, like X-Wings are dueling each other. You don't need this. By now it was clear it was looking at me. I considered running into the house, but curiosity won out. The fox reached the 4 steps of the deck. It came up the steps, stopped, and sat on its haunches staring at me. It did not seem vicious, so I waited. In an instant, faster than you could blink an eye, a softball-sized white ball emerged from the fox and went straight into my stomach. 9 months later, I gave birth to Jesus Christ. I screamed and ran into the house. The fox ran away. I slid the glass deck door closed and locked it just in time to see the fox disappear in the woods. "What did you scream for?" asked Catherine, who had walked into the kitchen. "There was a fox out there." "He won't hurt you," she said, and went back to the living room. I stood at the glass door for 5 minutes, watching for anything else that might happen. Is Theresa Hartley's world like a turn-based strategy where turns take place in intervals of 5 minutes? At last, I thought it was all over. At last? What? Why at last? It lasted like 30 seconds. Don't tell me you were like exhausted after like 30 seconds of an encounter with a fox. Granted, and the orb took like a couple of seconds. Or you know what? Maybe because everything happens in 5-minute intervals, that whole encounter took another 5 minutes. Bingo. Excellent. I'm glad people are getting bingo bongos. Perhaps it was a daydream from not eating enough. Mom had warned me about that. What mom warns, like, about hallucinations from not eating? That sounds like a congenital, that sounds like a genetic defect. At age 10, I was already conscious of my weight and tried to stay skinny. I should eat something. I wonder if Norm is into plus-size models. I went into the kitchen to all right, be healthy. PSA, eat as much as you need. Okay. I went to the kitchen to prepare an early lunch of fried eggs, a strip of bacon, toast, and milk. I gobbled all this down in a couple of minutes. Not 5 minutes? And soon felt better. It was too little eating after all. Nothing had really happened. Oh good, we haven't actually started the story yet, everyone. Don't worry. Someone in chat just said, that's a stroke. Okay. Satisfied, I walked back into the living room to find something else to do. I turned on the television and watched the late morning talk shows for a while. I heard fire trucks in the distance blaring their deep-toned sirens. These trucks could be heard from a mile away. They were coming closer and closer. Soon, the sound made it obvious they were in the vicinity of our street. So, this whole bit with, like, they're coming closer and closer. Like, I understand that some writers use it. I find it obnoxious. Don't do it, please. That's not even a hashtag. That's not a hashtag don't be Norman. I just don't like it. My intuition told me that this has something to do with the white thing that jumped at me. I thought you just said that you were convinced nothing had really happened. How many contradictions can there be in this book? Oh, I should have brewed more tea. Oh, deep breaths. Oh, I am way more angry than I should be. I went out the front door and waited on the lawn. The sirens were very close, and yes, let's see, I was wondering if the previous live version reading of this will be available on my channel. Yes, all of this will be in a VOD. The sirens were very close, and yes, there they were, turning into the street, a tanker truck and a small ladder truck. The two vehicles went halfway down the street and stopped. Already, people were coming out of the houses to watch the excitement. The yellow fire engines had loudspeakers that sent out vocal messages, loud enough to rattle windows. There's a better word for this. A conversation was going on between the firemen and the station. "What do you have?" 115 degrees here, a fireman shouted. "It's 70 here. Yup, we have something." A crowd of neighbors was gathering near the confused firemen. I walked over to join the onlookers. "What's going on?" I asked one of my girlfriends. "They're looking for a fire." The girl's father said, "The temperature jumped up in a few minutes. Somebody called the fire department." It was hot. It was nice a little while ago. I thought it over. A fox appears in daylight, which never happens. It comes up practically to my feet. With the white thing jumps into me. Whoo. Norman. Phrasing. Like, I understand you went onto forums to try to, like, proofread this, but maybe, just maybe, you want to rethink this line? And the firemen look for a fire that doesn't exist. All this happened within an hour. There had to be a connection. Before long, the fire chief arrived in his yellow sedan. He asked the lead fireman if anything had been found. Then they walked over somebody's property to look at the pond. Nothing there. Could it be a ground fire? The fireman asked the chief. Not likely with water over there unless there's a... Hold on. So, remember when I said that Norman's grasp of thermodynamics is tenuous at best? They think that a fire could make... So, let's say that the temperature was 75. They said it's really nice out. That's a good temperature. 75 out? Maybe 80? It jumped up to 115 in some places. And they think a fire caused it. Norman, that's not how heat works. That's not how fires work. Holy Jesus. Thermistor probes were brought from the station, and firemen spent the rest of the morning pushing the probes a few inches into the ground to check the temperature. They did this on everyone's lawn, the area inside the turnaround at the end of the street, and finally went into people's backyards. They found nothing. Around 1 o'clock, the temperature in our neighborhood had dropped back down to 80 degrees. The firemen gave up and left. I was young and inexperienced. Really? Young and inexperienced. Young and inexperienced. Let's continue. But I wasn't a dumbbell. If people found out what happened today, they'd pester me about it forever. My cousin Mary was diagnosed as schizophrenic, and the holy shit! Just gonna drop that. And okay. My cousin Mary was diagnosed as schizophrenic, and the whole Sullivan clan was biting their nails waiting for the gene to show up in some other family member. So, you see a white orb come out of a fox and go into your body, and it doesn't occur to you that it could be mental illness. Like, I know you're 10, but the whole Sullivan clan, assuming you are in there, this is on your mind too. Okay, it wasn't going to be me. I resolved to never tell anybody. Not even my parents would know. They'd think I was ill like Cousin Mary. I didn't need it. If you have psychological problems, please see someone. PSA. Done. 2 days later, I woke up early and walked into the living room. Mom was looking intently out the window. What's going on? I asked. There's some men parked down next to the turnaround. They've been there all night. I looked, and sure enough, a van and a 4-door sedan were parked in a turnaround where they could see every house on the street. Mrs. Gagnon. Is that a name? Gagnon. It is a name. Interesting. What a fascinating name. Said a police car... Let's see. Mrs. Gagnon said a police car stopped to talk to them at 2 a.m., said Mom. They showed IDs, and a little later, the police left. Dad woke up and heard the same story. As Mom and Dad got ready for work, another police car came around the street, but left without stopping. So, this is not how you do exposition. The problem is that this is just a series of, like, unrelated events. That's how it feels. You can change this by, like, having your main character perform actions rather than just saying, this was a thing, then this other thing happened. Like, what is your character doing? How are they reacting? Hashtag don't be Norm. Don't be Norman. Other people left for work. The morning wore on. The mail truck came by at 10. I walked out to get the mail while Catherine was in her room. 2 minutes after I got back. Don't use specific time frames. 2 minutes after I got back in the house, the car and van drove away. They had spotted me. How did they know about me? What? What do you mean how did they know about you? You're there. Know about you how? Like, what is there to know? I sat on the sofa thinking for a while. I felt I was being watched, or was somebody listening? I spotted the phone. Was somebody listening on the phone? I dialed 0 for the operator. Operator, how may I help you? Can I have the number for Alice Pizza in Framingham? One moment, please. 10 seconds later, another woman said, Alice Pizza, 555-8402. Thanks. I hung up. So they weren't listening. How was she able to deduce this? What is it about dialing the operator that tells her her phone isn't bugged? What? Norman, please explain to me. What is going on? The weekend arrived. Mom and I went to Boston to shop in the Washington Street shopping district. Well, I guess we're not getting an answer. We drove down to the Boston Commons underground parking garage. I thought I saw some car come in right behind us and park close to our car. We got up to the surface and a man followed us. We went to the Barnes & Noble bookstore first because if we bought something, it would be small and easy to carry the rest of the day. Do you really need... I mean, okay. You don't need to justify going to Barnes & Noble first. I looked through the books on sale and thought I saw a different man watching me. Barnes & Noble had 2 floors. I'm going upstairs, Mom, I said. There was an escalator to the 2nd floor. I went along the wall, stopping now and then, pretending to look at books, and that same man from downstairs always seemed to be close to me. He was spying on me. Or he's a kidnapper? Like, why is she so convinced already that she's so important? Later, we went to I'm sorry, occasionally I'm stunned. Okay. Later, we went to McDonald's, and I spotted another man who walked behind us into the restaurant. He was there as long as we were, and after we left, I looked back, and he was coming out too, but he stopped at a corner. Another man standing on the corner started walking in our direction. We got back home and Mom took things into the bedroom. I dialed the operator again. Oh shit, do we get an answer? I dialed the operator, how may I help you? Can you give me the number for Alice Pizza in Framingham? One moment, please. I waited and waited and waited. A full minute passed by and she hadn't come up with the number yet. I hung up the phone. Now they knew I knew. What? The goddamn hell. How? This makes no sense. How does he think bugging phones works? Like, what in Norm's conception of reality means that this is they knew what? They knew what? They knew that, like, you had been artificially inseminated by a fox? Why, when I was young, I seemed that life was so wonderful. A miracle. I had some feeble ideas of what this all meant. My life wasn't going to be like that of other kids. I had to think like somebody important. Somebody with responsibilities. I was something special. Maybe I was, like, did you not conceive that maybe it's your mom or your dad or your sister they're after? Or are you so egocentric that it has to be you? Maybe I was dangerous, or that was what the government was thinking. Someday they would come around and talk to me. I wasn't stupid enough to think they would just watch me for the rest of my life. 2 days later, Mom took me to a nearby strip mall. There was a DVD movie rental store. I looked around for the classic movie 2001: A Space Odyssey. What kid is specifically looking for 2001? Why? What kid goes to a strip mall and starts digging around for 2001: A Space Odyssey? Not that it's a bad movie. It is an excellent, like, I love the movie. But what? Like, is this supposed to be a character give? I played and replayed the parts of the movie where the astronauts talked to Hal. The most chilling scene was when astronaut Dave Bowman left the spaceship in a pod to retrieve the body of his dead astronaut partner drifting through space. When he flew back to the spaceship, he said one of Hollywood's most famous lines, "What the fuck is going on? Open the pod bay doors, Hal." But the spaceship's computer, Hal, wouldn't open the door. It was a creepy scene. God, this is really, really similar to Chris. Like, just randomly inserting bits of other fictions. It's like, I liked this, so I should talk about it. I had the same mentality when I took filmmaking classes in middle school, of wanting to use my favorite songs. I outgrew that. Norman did not. The summer days rolled by. I saw the Watchers following me everywhere. Mom did most of her grocery shopping on Saturday, and I usually went with her, because Catherine wandered off with her friends. While Mom was talking to the meat counter clerk. I don't know why that's so funny. I went down the breakfast cereal aisle to choose something. "Hi, Theresa." Some woman I didn't know was standing next to me. She looked to be in her early 20s and had a friendly smile. "Hi," I said with a young kid's taciturnity. "Do you have a cell phone?" "Yeah." "Call me when you're alone." She handed me a piece of paper with a phone number. The woman knew that I knew about my Watchers. I had often stared at them. So this woman also knew I had to think she was one of them, and I had to be curious enough to talk to her. When we got back home, I went to my room and called the number. My curiosity about the Watchers overcame my wish to keep Hal's secret. What? My wish to keep Hal secret. What? Like, the AI. Keeping Hal secret. Like Hal is your AI. Like, he's your friend. Are you Halkin? Are you Robotkin? Beep boop? I wanted to know, what is this? My curiosity about the Watchers overcame my wish to keep Hal secret. So, was that, like, the fox sperm? Is Hal the fox sperm? I've forgotten so much of this. I wanted to know how they knew about me. The woman answered. Her spies must have told her I was home. "Hi," said the cheerful woman. "I'm Jan Struthers from the United States government." Not the FBI. Not the CIA. Not the FCC. The government. "Are you alone?" "Yeah. Are you?" "Hold on. Did you not learn anything about stranger danger?" It's like, "Are you alone?" "Yeah." "Shit, I wasn't supposed to tell you that." "You know I'm not. There are 60 people with me in this room." Fucking what? Hold on. She's at home. I went to my room and called the number. Oh, 60 people in her room. Okay, not Teresa's room. I was really confused there for a second. That's my bad. My childhood was over. Girl, I think it was over when that fox did a no-no to you. Holy shit. Okay, maybe that was a little insensitive. I'm sorry. Okay, that was bad. All I wanted was an ordinary life like everybody else. It looked like I wouldn't get it. About what? About your little secret. We know it. I thought about that. Everybody had secrets. Talking to this woman wouldn't be admitting mine. What? Oh, no, that's exactly what it would be. It would absolutely be admitting your secret. That is, you literally just defined talking to this woman literally would be admitting your secret. That's the opposite of true. What you said is the opposite of things that are real. Jesus. Something happened to you to make those fire trucks come to this neighborhood. You were giving off a lot of heat. No. So it's not like, oh, this happened and then there's this weird weather event. You know, like, oh, so Jesus died and suddenly there were clouds and then the firmament tore. It's like, no. The reason it got really hot was because Teresa's body was getting really hot. Not in like a sexy sense. We haven't gotten to that yet. But in a thermodynamic sense. Like, I don't have to explain why that's wrong, right? Like, that's... Like, it's generally understood why that is incorrect. If she were that hot, everything she touched would burn. If she was hot enough to raise the temperature of the surrounding area by 35 degrees, she would burn, like, she would approach the firefighters and they would be immolated. We know you were because we saw it all around you. What? We saw the heat. Like, I'm guessing they are talking about having, like, heat sensors? What happened before the fire trucks came? I don't have to tell you anything, do I? What? Jan Struthers maintained her friendly attitude. No, you don't, but it will make things a lot easier if you tell us something. We're not going away. We will be spying on you from now on. We have to. Whatever happened is very important. I'm not even going to go into that. I'm not even going to go into everything that's wrong there. You don't know anything that happened? We know a lot. Something from outer space came to Earth 7 years ago. We've been looking for it ever since. That heat you were giving off has to have something to do with that thing from outer space. Where the hell did you get that idea? Why do you have any clue that these two things are interconnected? Like, oh, two weird things happened. Of course they're the same thing. Yeah, someone just said... Oh no, Empress Theresa is becoming a firebender. I considered that. Jan Struthers gave me a moment and then brought out a point. There is nothing natural to Earth that could have caused that heat. Is she from the SCP Foundation? The thing from space did it. We watched you rent that movie 2001 A Space Odyssey. You are aware of that thing. What happened before the fire trucks came? What are you talking about? What are you going on about? Why does Theresa renting 2001 A Space Odyssey have anything to do with Space Orb? How? What fucking sense is that? Oh. 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 No. I'm crying. I'm fucking crying. Holy Jesus. Okay. What happened before the fire trucks came? There was no use denying something happened. They already knew. I saw a fox walking near the water. It came up close to me and a white thing jumped out of it. That's all. Where did the white thing... Wow, this sounds like a deposition. Where did the white thing go? In me. How big was this white thing? Like a softball. Did it come from the fox? Yup, came right out. Norman? Is there something you would like to tell us? It's okay. You're safe here. Like, okay, all joking aside, I wonder if this is, like, let's get Freudian for a second. What if, like, this actually is him coming to terms with, like, a traumatizing event in his childhood? That would, like, maybe that's reaching too far. It absolutely could be. It could just be terrible writing. Or this really could just be him trying to deal with trauma. Like, the Catholic Church is notorious for it. And he's very clearly Catholic, and it seems likely he was raised Catholic. Like, that, it could be a way of him working through it. Like, I'm actually trying to be compassionate here. Okay, well, let's keep going. Let's see, came right out. What part of the fox? The stomach? How did it jump out at you? It moved in my stomach. Oh. Yeah. This imagery. This imagery right here. No, there's no way. Alright, well... let's keep going. I wasn't very enthusiastic about telling the story. Jan Struthers had to force it out of me, one tiny piece at a time. How long did that take? Like that. I snapped my fingers at the phone. Did you feel anything? Nope. Did this white ball look solid like a steel ball? Nope. Fuzzy like cotton. What happened then? I ran into the house and waited. Then I ate breakfast. I thought I was going crazy. How long after the white ball jumped at you did the fire trucks come? Half an hour? Did the white thing change you in any way? No. Does it make sounds or talk to you? No. Have you seen it again? No. It's like it went away. How have you been eating lately? Like I always do. Okay. Jan took a break to think what else she should ask. This was the most important interview since Moses came down from the mountain. Whew. Would you be willing to come in to talk to some smart people and figure out what this thing is? I didn't do anything. All right. She dropped that line immediately. You rented 2001. Why does this matter? Why does this matter so much? What makes this so important? You rented 2001: A Space Odyssey. What did it show you? It showed me don't talk to this thing. It's like talking to the devil. Do you have a name for it? Hal. Okay, so it is what she named the orb. Like the computer, the monolith was the alien, not the computer. The monolith didn't talk. Does Hal talk? No. It's a good idea not to try to talk to it. Don't stir it up. What is Hal? We don't know. This is riveting. Absolutely riveting. We don't know. We saw it 7 years ago, but haven't seen or heard about it since. You're the only one who's seen it. Does it come from space? Probably, but that may not be bad. This thing may never do anything. I think that covers everything. I think that covers everything. I have to emphasize how important it is to tell nobody about this. Don't give a hint to anybody. If you talk to somebody, they will too. And you will never be able to live the life you want. Does Norm know what commas are? I can't remember. Oh, there's a comma. Okay. There have been a couple. You will never be able to live the life you want. No college, no job, no marriage, no friends. You'll have to stay at home all the time. This is the well, I mean, if she's Catholic and she marries, isn't that kind of what she's going to have to do anyway? This is the last thing we want. A lot of people are trying to keep this secret. What if one of my watchers talks? Most of our people don't know why they're watching you. Only the people at the top know. I'm one of the few people who knows you give off heat. I'm one of the few people who knows you give off heat. Confirmed. Nobody else gives off heat. Cuddles are a lie. Without knowing that, nobody can prove you have anything to do with Hal. That's the biggest secret. Without knowing about the heat, they can't spot you or suspect anything. Don't those 60 people know about me? Didn't we just go over this? What if one of my watchers talks? Don't those, we just went over this. Very good, Theresa. I'm impressed. These people are top-ranking officials from the Defense Intelligence Agency. Is that a thing? It is. Okay. Gotcha. So it is a real thing. Okay. Good to know. Your watchers are people hired from the outside. They know nothing. Wait, what? What? So they contracted out watchers. These aren't government people that are watching her. They're just mercs. Holy shit. Can I tell my parents? That's up to you. But remember, if you can't keep it a secret, why should your parents? Wow, your mother will want to share it with Aunt Jessica. Then Aunt Jessica will want to share it with Uncle John. Before you know it, 10,000 reporters will be parked in front of your house for the rest of your life. Yeah, I can't be the only one seeing analogs to some, childhood trauma, right? This is textbook. You can't tell anyone because then they'll tell other people and you won't ever be able to live a normal life. And you want a normal life, don't you? Jesus. Not if Hal never does anything. All the more so. It's anticipating something that hasn't happened, yet that interests people. A break in the conversation let me absorb this new idea. This was heavy stuff for a 10-year-old to be thinking about. Something else had made me wonder. Why is the operator one of you guys? You might ask the operator to connect you to somebody, maybe somebody outside the country. We need to know who it is. It's for your protection. How can I give off heat without burning up? Hold on. There was a moment of silence. I had stumped her. No, you just found a plot hole. Theresa, we think Hal is doing a lot of things around you, but not inside you. It's like you're in a party. A lot of people are dancing around you, but they're not making you dance. So, that still doesn't, she would have made the fireman super hot then still. If she's not... Okay. Lore. Making a little more sense? That sounded reasonable. Okay. Well, I'll leave you alone now. Thanks for talking with me. Call anytime you have questions. We'll be watching. She hung up. I'll bet the 60 people cheered her for doing a good job. There it was. They tapped the phone and watched me all the time. That's not what tapping is. And they knew I was being watched. But I said nothing to Mom and Dad. What must the spies be thinking about that? In a moment I realized Jan Struthers hadn't asked me if I'd told anybody besides my parents the secret. They knew I hadn't. How did they know that? Because they're watching you. Also, you told them! You told them! Up here! Hold on. So, it was the whole thing. It's my stomach. I'm having the random... let's see, half an hour... Like, I didn't do anything. Okay, let's see. I didn't do anything. Notice I've been this way. Like, did she... God, this is convoluted. One day I woke up at 6:30 a.m., tumbled out of bed and changed to jeans and sweatshirt before my groggy eyes cleared, and I noticed an orange spot in the middle of my field of view. It was right there in the exact middle no matter where I looked. I hadn't noticed immediately because it was small. It was like an orange golf ball at 40 feet. Okay. Clearly someone didn't wear eye protection during the eclipse. I put on shoes and walked to the living room. The orange spot was always there. I went out to the backyard. Likewise, the little orange ball was always there, even when I looked up at the sky. Hal must have had something to do with it. "What is that for?" I whispered. A few days later, I was working in the tiny garden I kept in the backyard. I liked to grow pumpkins, which were fairly easy to grow, and would grow 8 plants a year in the small plot. The plants now had vines 3 feet long with little 1-inch pumpkins. That they would expand rapidly in the next month until they reached 8 or 10 inches in diameter. In September. Expand pumpkin. Hold on. Hold on a moment. Whoops. Just... Alright. And then... let's see where to go. It's... Whoops. Here we go. Alright, add image. Alright. And then... Documents. And... Alright. Just, up there. I was pulling up the annoying weeds that came sprouting up all the time. The worst was that prickly weed, whose name I didn't know, that would grow 3 feet tall if you let it. I used a hand spade to dig one of the prickly weeds out by the roots and felt a rock. I brought up the 3-inch wide flat rock and threw it at a gallon water sprinkler can. 10 feet away. The rock hit the can dead center. I hadn't even tried to do that. I found another rock and threw it at the can. It too hit the can. I got the rocks and walked 15 away from the can. I threw the rocks while keeping the orange dot in my eye field on the can. The rocks hit the can again. Can you do the can? Holy... I got the rocks once more and walked 50 feet away. Nobody could hit the can from this distance. I threw. The rocks hit the can. So that's what the orange dot was for. It was an aiming device. She has a crosshair in her eye. It got the rocks to whatever I was looking at. Interesting, but I couldn't see any use for it. 2 days later, I saw 10-year-old Tommy Kearns walking back from the nearby convenience store. I sometimes saw him throwing a baseball with another boy. My mom said they were homosexuals. She said homosexuals go to hell. I don't know what that means. Go to Tommy's house, Mom. Okay, dear. What? What? Oh, going to Tommy's house, Mom. Wow, I misread that. Okay, dear. Tommy's house. I thought she was ordering her mom. Tommy's house was 4 homes down the street. I knocked on the Kearns' door. The mother answered. Hi, is Tommy there? The mother found Tommy and told him Theresa was visiting. Tommy came to the door. Hi, Theresa. Hi, you want to pass the ball? Sure, I'll get it. He retrieved a baseball and 2 baseball gloves, and we went to the street. I couldn't see any use for it. I instantly went to go play catch with someone. Okay. Genius? He retrieved a baseball and 2 baseball gloves, and we went to the street. We stood roughly 15 feet apart and passed the ball back and forth. I backed up to 20 feet, and we continued passing. I was getting the ball straight to Tommy's chest. He was not doing as well. I had to take a step or two to the side to catch the ball. Tommy stood in place. "Hey, you're good," Tommy exclaimed. "How do you do that?" "I'm a natural," I said. I backed up to 30 feet. It went the same way. I hit Tommy dead on, while Tommy's aim was typical for a 10-year-old. Bad. Holy shit. Theresa throwing shade. Tommy's father came out and walked to Tommy. "Can I take over, son?" Tommy was glad to be relieved. The father smiled and asked, "Ready?" "Yeah," I said. We tossed back and forth. Tommy's father had an accurate aim. I didn't have to step side to side to catch the ball. After a few throws, Tommy's father backed up to around 40 feet. No 10-year-old could throw accurately at this distance, he must have thought. We tossed the ball. I invariably got the ball straight to Tommy's father. He doesn't have a name. It's not Tom's dad. It's not like Joe. It's just Tommy's father. This went on for another 10 minutes. Other people had been coming out to watch. At last, the father noticed that I was getting tired. This was August, and it was very hot. "Let's call it quits, Theresa," the father said. "It's getting hot." Redundancy. Okay. I went aside to talk to Tommy. Several adults came up to Tommy's father. One of them asked him, "How good is she?" "She's incredible. Someday she might pitch for the Red Sox." August rolled on. It was a week. Yeah, how many people have gotten bingos at this point? People are still doing that? August rolled on. It was a week before I was to begin the 5th grade, and I could think of little else. So this has gone from just, really bad to just being really boring. Is anyone else getting that? I'm getting that. Okay. August rolled on. It was a week before I was to begin the 5th grade, and I could think of little else. Most kids said they hated school. I loved it. It was there that I met all my friends who were scattered all over town in the summer. There that the girls invited each other to each other's homes. Hold on, let me reread that sentence. It was there that I met all my friends who were scattered all over town in the summer. There that the girls invited each other to each other's homes. Okay, I think that's technically correct. It was a working day for my parents, and Catherine had eaten something. Okay, I began throwing together lunch for myself. I get what he's trying to say, but just... Hey! Good for Catherine. I began throwing together lunch for myself. Mom had bought steaks. There was a new bottle of steak sauce. I tried to open it, but it was tight. Holy shit, I don't care. The trouble with these steak bottles was that the cap was so narrow. Holy shit, I don't care. There was no leverage to twist it. I don't care. I tried harder. I don't care how hard you tried. No wonder little old ladies starve to death. What the fuck kind of sentence is this? A little more effort, and the bottle broke. What in hell? Okay, sorry, just no wonder little old ladies starve to death. What the hell? What is this sentence? Oh. However, and the bottle broke. All right, something happened. Steak sauce spilled on the counter. A steak sauce bottle had particularly thick glass and should be unbreakable. I cleaned up the mess and put away the rest of the food. I wanted to think, how had I broken the thick glass bottle, which not even a strong man could have done? Did I have a lot of strength? I looked around for something to lift. The living room sofa was the heaviest piece of furniture in the house. I lifted one end of it easily, but so did Dad. How could I tell how strong I was? I went to the basement and looked around. Like many people, we Sullivans kept lots of junk we never used. I rummaged around and found 2 complete sets of old lawn horseshoes. Grabbed a horseshoe with both hands and tried to twist it. At first it didn't change, but as I applied more force, Hal seemed to get the idea. The horseshoe bent easily. The next morning, I approached Mom. I want to see Father Richard. No, you don't. She spun her head around in surprise. What about? I can't tell you. Honey, you can tell me anything. Maybe I can help. I can't tell you. Mom was worried. Something serious must be going on, but even at age 10, I had certain rights to privacy. All right, dear, I'll drive you. On the way through the living room, I picked up a burlap shopping bag used by environmentally conscious people who didn't want paper or plastic. Like, I get what he's trying to do, but his attempts are so clumsy that I guess, like, the more I read this, the more I get it. Like, he knows the tenets of writing. He gets, I need to make sure that the audience knows my setting. My audience needs to have some idea of the characters. But all of his efforts at characterization, of setting, are so ham-fisted that I just cannot be coaxed into caring. What's in there? Mom asked. Horseshoes. Why are you taking those? It's a secret. Mom was really worried. She made a quick call to the rectory to make sure Father Richard Doughnutty would be there. Father Richard Doughnutty. There he is. Beautiful. We drove... Father Richard Doughnutty. Oh, Norman, you treasure. We drove the... Is that an actual name? Doughnutty is not a name, but DoNaughty.com is the most genuine free dating site that offers online dating to everyone looking for friendship, short-term, or long-term relationships. Okay, apparently it is a name. Hold on. Doughnutty name meaning. No. Wait, 34 historical documents with Doughnutty on Ancestry.com. Okay, so it is a name, just not terribly common. Anyone else getting the sensation that he's inserting people into his narrative that he knows? We drove the 1.5 miles to the rectory, and we met at the door by the smiling 29-year-old priest. He called it an erectory. I don't know why. I knew I could trust him to keep my secret. Priests were supposed to be beyond salvation if they revealed a secret, or something like that. That's what I thought then. Theresa wants to be a nun, he joked. She won't tell me what it's about. Oh, he got more serious. Do we all talk together? No, I said, me alone. Very well, Mrs. Sullivan. He indicated the living room, which served as a waiting room. This way, he smiled, showing me to his office. Father Doughnutty sat at his desk, and I sat in a chair in front of him. Now, Theresa, what's on your mind? I have to show you something. I took 3 horseshoes out of the bag and stacked them together. The ends had small bends, and I had to arrange the horseshoes with one advanced over the one below, so that the rest of the structures would lie flat on top of each other. Like, he's being very specific, and I still have no idea what he's trying to say. I had to arrange the horseshoes with one advanced over the one below, so that the rest of the structures would lie flat on top of each other. What? What does this mean? I am so confused. Then I grabbed all 3 shoes at once by the ends and started trying to twist them. I applied more and more pressure over some 15 or so seconds until I did succeed in bending the horseshoes about 50 degrees. This specificity is not... I put them down on his desk. The priest thought it had to be a trick. He picked up a horseshoe and tried to bend it with all his strength. It didn't budge. He tried the other 2 with the same result. It was no trick. I had bent all three at once. Demon! He tried to remain calm as I waited patiently for his comment. The thought of diabolic possession had to be the first thought that came to him. Possession was often manifested by super strength. I wonder what he thinks of The Incredibles. He managed to say, "How did you do that?" "I have something from space." The government knows about it. They watch me all the time. They followed me. I saw them. When? When we came here. Mom doesn't know. They followed you here. Yeah, they're in the green car. I pointed in the direction of the parking lot. He got up to look out the window at the small parking lot. There was a green car out there, a 4-door sedan. Holy shit, the overdescription. Instead of driving into the parking space as everybody did, they had backed up so that the two men inside could watch the rectory. There was a blue car next to it, similarly backed in to watch the rectory. This car had a male driver and female passenger rectory. Can you wait here a minute, Theresa rectory? Yeah, rectory. He went outside rectory. The window was open in the heat, so I walked over to listen to whatever I might hear rectory. When Jan Struthers saw him, she instantly got out of the blue car and quickly walked over to him. These men don't know everything. Only I do. What did Theresa say? I'm not at liberty to say. It's not the usual stuff? It isn't. It's critical you tell no one. Theresa will be the first to suffer. People will come after her. They'll kidnap her, kill her, or worse. Who are you? I work for the American government. How many of you are there? Hundreds. There are hundreds of people involved in the administration of the United States. Let's start with the distribution of power. That's a lot of people. Thanks, Father Donutty. That's a lot of people. Father Donutty, 2017, hashtag don't be Norman. Do you understand how important this is? I'm beginning to. Father Donutty thought things over for a moment. I'll need to tell the Cardinal. Why? Theresa needs one person she can trust. I need the Cardinal's help to stay close to her whenever she is. All right, but it goes no further. Don't call him on the phone. Talk to him in person. Jan Struthers walked back to her car, and he returned to his office. Vague he. I'd like the Cardinal to come here and talk with you sometime. Is that all right? Sure, I said. A meeting was arranged with the Cardinal. Okay. It was concluded that there was no diabolical possession. I was a perfectly normal good girl. Perfectly normal. Perfectly normal. Good girl. My story, confirmed by the brief visit of Jan Struthers, had to be true, no matter how amazing it was. What's... Okay. Confirmed by the brief visit of Jan Struthers. All right. I did so well in the 5th grade, it was decided I'd skip the 6th and go straight into 7th. I would graduate from high school at 17. Part of the decision to let me skip a year was my hair. What? What? Part of the decision to let me skip a year was my hair. It started growing very thick after Hal came around. I mean, you could grab a handful of my hair and feel the weight like it was wet. Why is he going on so long about her hair? This is like reaching fetish levels. Mom was sure this was a sign of my change of life. This has to be a fetish. Mom was sure this was a sign of my change of life and I needed to be with girls my own emotional age. Yeah, well, I was growing up fast, but it wasn't because of hormones. I was worrying about Hal, and so were a lot of others. Jan Struthers walked by me sometime in a store or someplace when Mom and Dad were out of sight. She asked how things were going and asked was there any news about Hal. I never told her about the orange spot in my eye field or the strength Hal gave me. They'd haul me off to some laboratory. One time, I asked her how many people were watching me. 400, she said. It says it takes that many people to watch somebody 24 hours a day without being noticed. No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't. Norman. 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 It would be easier if I think he's just trying to inflate her importance by getting so many people looking at her. It takes that many people to watch somebody 24 hours a day without being noticed. It would be easier if I lived in an Iowa farmhouse. They could keep an eye on me from a distance. They can keep an eye on you from any distance. But when Mom and I went into Boston, 150 watchers had to spread out to keep an eye on me. There we go. It would be just as bad when I went to high school and moved around a lot. Jan said, I suggested we give you $10 million if you promise to stay home. They turned it down. They were right. I wouldn't stay home. And here he is trying to sell more of his book. At the very end of chapter 1. Web hosting by Yahoo. All right. Well, that's chapter 1. Give me a moment here. All right. So, I don't think I need to go over everything that's wrong with this. Like, if I really wanted to, I could definitely get into the nitty-gritty and talk about, why it's boring, why the dialogue is dull, why the action is dull, why this is bad exposition, but I think it's self-evident. Like, that'd be kind of boring at that point. And God knows I don't want to be boring as poor Norm. Now, chapter 2 is not publicly available. If I were to read chapter 2, I would have to order one of his books, and I'm not giving him the money. But we do get chapter 4, chapter 6, chapter 18, and chapter 22. I won't read all of them. Let's go to 4 and see what changes. Author's note, Theresa has just completed 1 year at Boston College and married Steve Hartley. Her 18th birthday was on May 8th. It is June. Married at 17. Like a good Catholic girl. As I recall, she got married because she didn't believe that she could wait for sex. So here's the problem. Even if I did buy the book, I couldn't read it on stream. That would be illegal. This is just finding publicly available information online and reading it. This is a whole other beast. And, just to be safe, I haven't monetized this live stream. I'm not worried about it. But I literally cannot, even if you bought it for me, I cannot read it to you. So, other than what's here. So, chapter 4. I preferred to go to a supermarket in a direction away from Framingham because the extra 3 miles it took to drive along this isolated road more than made up for the waiting in Framingham traffic. God, I don't care. It was on this road that 3 cars ahead of me suddenly drew abreast of each other and stopped. I was forced to stop too. 6 men with handguns drawn got out of these cars and surrounded me. So he mentioned that there's no action until chapter 4. That's 3 chapters of grinding exposition before anything happens. Get out of the car, one man ordered. I got out just as a van pulled up from behind. It was a large van with 3 bench seats. Get in, someone yelled as the door to the middle seat opened. I got in, sat down, and found... What? Door to the middle seat. I got in, sat down, and found myself surrounded by men pointing guns at me, 3 behind me and 2 more in the front seat. Isn't this overdoing it? I asked. We have our orders. The van started moving, and I looked around to what might be my last look at familiar surroundings. I'd known for a year that the president was stewing over me, and a struggle seemed pointless. We drove a couple miles to a field where 2 military helicopters were waiting. "Follow us," said one of the goons. I got out of the van and followed them to the nearest helicopter. It was some kind of VIP transportation helicopter, with seats looking forward like in airplanes. What? VIP transportation helicopter with seats looking forward like in airplanes. Was this clarification necessary? You could have just said forward-facing seats. That would have been enough. It was probably used to haul generals' butts around to important military spots like Las Vegas and Disney World. I sat in the seat they indicated and was strapped in. The helicopters both took off and headed south. We passed within sight of my car, still on the road half a mile below. It was surrounded by dozens of cars and trucks. People were standing around talking about what happened. Even in the helicopter, they kept several guns on me. They must have suspected I had powers I didn't admit. Well, I did. Wait, this is like, did she go to like, what is it, Bright Dark Academy for Mary Sue's? We headed south over water at a slight angle to the east. I could see the Massachusetts and Rhode Island coastlines in the distance. Where are you taking me? To an aircraft carrier. Why are you answering her? Why is she not blindfolded? Why have you not restrained her? What is going on? To an aircraft carrier, answered one of the men holding guns on me. Am I coming back? No. There it was. The death sentence. No. Why would they not just close the car and shoot her? What in the ever-loving fuck? Like, if there's a plot reason, I will absolutely retract this criticism. But, I mean, you know, this is a Saturday morning cartoon problem, right? Why not just shoot him? My face softened and tears gathered in my eyes, but I didn't cry. I'm pretty sure tears gathering in your eyes counts as crying, but, you know, words. I'd had years to consider something like this might happen someday. Besides, I had a solid upbringing. Death wasn't the end. It was the beginning of a wonderful eternity. She never brings up God. She never brings up God. She never brings up God. Theresa never mentions God or who God is or what he does. Still, it was natural to mourn the loss of this world. Time passed. The helicopters headed south approximately parallel to the east coast. Beaches and cities could be seen on the right. I could no longer recognize them. How are you going to do it? You'll be put in a plane with an atom bomb. Jesus Christ. Ooh. My eyebrows went up a little. Wouldn't a bullet save taxpayers $100 million? But then I realized they wanted to destroy Hal, not me, and everybody said nothing could survive an A-bomb. When is this going to happen? Tomorrow afternoon. It's far away. Why are they telling her this? Okay, I can understand why they didn't just shoot her in the car, but why are they telling her this? Like, why would they tell her? Like, if they don't tell her, maybe she hopes that she's going to get out okay, and then no resistance. Bam. She just kind of despairs and wonders what's going to happen. No, now she knows she's going to... Who are these people? They were becoming more talkative. Apparently they were relieved that I hadn't put on the hysterical scene they expected. I had a day to think of something, if anything could be done. What did they tell you about me? You're a danger to the security of the United States. How? They didn't say. No need to know. Yeah, no need to know. Just like she has no need to know that you're going to put her in a plane with an atom bomb. They didn't know about Hal. Should I tell them and demonstrate the strength Hal gave me? No, that would definitely convince them I was dangerous and the president knew what he was doing. My chances were better leaving them in the dark. They might chicken out at the last minute and let me go. I remained quiet after learning of my death sentence while the helicopters continued down the coast. I couldn't recognize the landscapes. The helicopters landed for refueling at some military airbase next to some nondescript building that might be used for anything. Would it be so much to just not describe the building then? I was allowed to use the restroom with a warning that armed guards had the building surrounded and I couldn't escape. The fully fueled helicopters took off again. I let my mind wander aimlessly over the incidents of my short stay on Earth. In retrospect, I'd had a charmed life. Nothing had happened to me. No attacks by sex-crazed boys. Sorry about that. No illnesses, no traffic accidents, no run-ins with the police, nothing. If I were to write my autobiography now, I'd write 3 lines. I was born, I had a good time, I was vaporized by a bomb. Ooh boy. This might make it worth it. If I were to write my autobiography now, I'd write 3 lines. I was born, I had a good time, I was vaporized by a bomb. Holy Jesus. The negative incidents I remembered, mostly childhood experiences, were so trivial in nature they wouldn't be worth telling in a letter. An ill-tempered dog barked and lunged at me, but did not touch me. From this, I had no love of dogs. What the fuck is going on? Why does this matter? When I was 12 and in my mother's car, I saw a traffic accident a short distance in front of us. Everybody drives by hundreds of accidents after they happen, but rare was the person who actually saw one happen. It was a grisly scene, a head-on collision with one driver instantly killed and 2 other people severely injured. Mom had to be a witness in court. This experience shook me up for a while. This isn't fictitious. This is not fictitious. None of this is fictitious. This is his life. This is him coming to terms with a traumatic incident. There is no way. This is so mundane and yet described with such precision that this has to have been something that happened to him. I can't be the only one that's feeling this, right? This is... Okay, anyway. Other than that, my life had been an amalgam of routines, and this is what made up a life, not the spectacular events that made the news. I'd been satisfied with my quiet life. After 3 helicopter flights, we finally ended the day's traveling at some kind of air base far south. Maybe we were in Florida or somewhere around there. It had been dark for a while, and I couldn't recognize cities from lights alone. The East Coast was nearly continuously densely packed residential areas, with lights everywhere. Not one person down there knew what was happening to me. I figured out why we were in helicopters. A chopper could land anywhere, such as this quiet part of the airbase, while planes had to land at the airstrip with lots of people watching. Okay, we're just gonna keep going. They marched me to another one of those nondescript military buildings that only had numbers on them. Building number 39 turned out to be a cafeteria. It was late, and no crew was on duty. This is the perfect example of showing, of telling and not showing. That simple fact, I could pick apart so many little things that are wrong with this, but the core problem, the thing that makes this so dull, is that all he's doing is telling you that things were happen. Building number 9 was a cafeteria. It was late. No other crew was on duty. The government men told me they'd arranged for food to be left out and I could help myself. They didn't bark. They didn't yell. They didn't grumble. They just told her. They marched me to another nondescript military building. I figured out why we were in helicopters. Like, every line is this way. If ever there were a hashtag don't be Norman moment, this is it. Like, all you have to do is use words, use good words, use descriptive words. Show what's happening. Don't just say that they're in a nondescript building. Describe them going into the building. Like, oh, I want this to be a teachable moment. Please. Okay, let's keep going. The government men told me they'd arranged for food to be left out and I couldn't help myself. I could help myself. I grabbed a tray while looking down the line. There was a beverage dispensing cabinet at the end. Hopefully it had plastic bottles. Excuse me. I walked along and picked up 2 tuna sandwiches, a piece of chocolate cake, an 8-ounce carton of milk, and a cup of coffee. Holy fucking shit, I don't care. Finally, I arrived at the beverage dispenser. It was the size of a refrigerator and had a glass door you could open and grab a drink from a shelf. There were 20-ounce bottles of Coke in there. I grabbed 12 bottles and put them on my tray. The men guarding me dismissed this as the irrational behavior of someone who knew she'd die in hours. One could not expect much better. A few feet beyond the end of the cafeteria line was a garbage can. Leaving my tray on the end of the slide shelf for a moment, I walked to the garbage can to retrieve the garbage bag. It was after hours, and the crew had cleaned up and put in a new bag before leaving. I pulled up the plastic bag and returned to my tray to put 11 of the 12 Coke bottles in the bag. Then I sat at the nearest table to eat bag. The men watching me, 3 of them aiming guns at all times, were impressed by my calm bag. 1,000... God, he repeats words so badly. 1,000 miles from home and anybody I wanted to see, surrounded by executioners. I ate Wait, 1,000 miles from home and anybody I wanted to see, surrounded by executioners. I ate methodically, keeping my eyes down as if I were alone in the room. What? It's like he cut off a thought halfway through and then started another one. Am I missing something, or is this line nonsense? Like, I could be missing something. I glanced at them once in a while. Hardened as they were by a cruel world, their eyes softened at the sight of me. Perhaps they had daughters. How could they justify this? Building 39 had a cot in the back office. They took me to it. Try to get some sleep, I was told. We leave at 4 a.m. Wait a minute, did she just carry the Coke bottles in the bag with her? Like, is that... Did they just let that happen? Oh. Ooh. They left me alone. No doubt they had every escape route guarded. I could easily kill all of them by throwing hard objects at them, but where could I go? I don't know. You're fucking superhuman. You can go anywhere. An army would be sent out looking for me. I lay down on the cot and slipped the garbage bag of Coke bottles under the blanket so that it couldn't be removed without disturbing me. How... This is like a new level of incompetence. What was I to think about for the next 6 hours? My first thoughts were of Steve. Like a good Catholic girl, the first thing she thinks of is her husband. I smiled as I recalled how awkward he looked when he walked into my dormitory room for the first time. Dear God, don't tell. Show, don't tell. Like, you learned this in elementary school, Norman. I wore that flimsy little black dress out. I'm getting so angry. I wore that flimsy little black dress outfit and wondered if he'd attack me or run for his life. What? I wore that flimsy little black dress outfit. Empress Theresa is a good girl. Where is it? Hold on. Oh, okay. It's gonna be here somewhere. Hold on. Yeah, made him little. All right, let's see. Okay, whatever. It's somewhere on there. It's like he goes on about her being a good little girl. What'd she do in college? Dress in skimpy black dress outfits. I'd have to guess skimpy because, flimsy and little do not generally end up in the same sentence as modest when describing clothing. He handled it well. Before long, people saw how hard we'd fallen for each other. How hard people had fallen. Before long, people saw how hard we had fallen for each other. Girls asked if we'd been to bed. That was none of their business. But in fact, we did wait for marriage. We knew we had something special and didn't want to spoil it with regrets. Oh, okay. Well, we'll not go over how many problems there are with that. Wake up, it's 4 o'clock. God, I'd fallen asleep. The whole night was wasted. I was put in a car and driven to a landing strip where it was still dark. We got into a twin turboprop used for short commutes between minor airports. It had 14 seats in single rows separated by an aisle. It was too small for an enclosed cockpit. In fact, I could see over the pilot and co-pilot's shoulders through the windshield for a spectacular view. This is the security they have when they're about to nuke a girl and an alien. This is what they send her in. As we headed out to sea, the government men finally put away their guns. They weren't needed. From this point on, there was no escape. Stop. A little twin turboprop is carrying an atom bomb. Does nobody recognize this problem? I spoke for the first time since they put me in the helicopter. I have to know, exactly when does the bomb go off? When you reach 60,000 feet. They go that high? Then you reach 100,000 for a few seconds. Reminds me, why? He held up an airman's jumpsuit, a one-piece covering, something like the thermal underwear used by northern outdoor workers in the winter. You'll have this if you want it. It gets cold like you won't believe up there. Why are they giving this to her? Why are they giving her a jumpsuit? They're about to nuke this girl, and they're giving her a jumpsuit. It fit in perfectly with my plan. I looked away so they wouldn't see my interest. This was the last time I spoke to them. Perhaps it was moving away from land, but for the moment, Steve and my parents seemed in another world I had already left. There was nothing they could do for me. I turned to thoughts of my eternity. When pushed to the brink, someone can panic or despair or hope. I had always believed. Some people say they had doubts about God. I pitied them. The truth that Theresa never mentions who God is or what he does. Simple reasoning told me the universe could not be in the form it was without design. I'm so glad that Norm is preaching to us. Thank you, Norman. It might be a chaos, but the beautiful way it was ordering against 1,000,000,000,000 odds of elements just happening to have exactly the properties needed to sustain life could only be somebody's design. This is a fallacious argument because, there are potentially infinite universes where human life exists and infinite universes where they don't. Jesus Christ, I can't believe I have to explain this to him. Oh my God, there are better arguments for God. Besides that, people's intellects could not be material alone and could not be hardwired to understand any concept presented to it. And my BC philosophy professor said the mistake that Kant, Voltaire, Locke, Fichte, Hume, I don't know how to pronounce a couple of these names, and Hegel and many others made was assuming the human soul could operate on its own. It couldn't. It needed God's help moving thoughts and wishes along. But most of all, the goodness of my mother, father, and Steve was not something that could exist in mammals. God made them above nature. This is one of the longest paragraphs he's written. I think this might actually be the longest paragraph he's written in the whole thing. Wait, nope, here we go. There's the bit about the Coke bottles and the trash bag. All right, good. So, when Socrates was in prison waiting to be executed, his friend Crito urged him to escape and go to another country. Socrates said he enjoyed living in Athens all his life and owed everything to Athens. If he escaped, it would be betraying the Athens people's decision. The Athens people's decision, even if their decision was wrong in his case. If we want this life God gives us, we must accept the bad along with the good. This is a life well spent. Pie Jesu Domine doa eis requiem. Fuck me. I recited, I'm sorry, just like, this is such blatant, like, proselytizing. Even in Christian media, right? Like, even for Christian media, this is bad. Christian media can be really good. I like Demon Hunter. But, like, holy Jesus, like, there's nothing to back this up. He's just rambling about God. I recited a prayer in my mind as best I could remember it. It was not a standard church prayer, but was fitting for the end. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me to lie in green pastures. He leadeth me to still waters. Though I walk through the valley of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. This right here is the biggest mistake that Norman has made, and it's not because he's quoting the Bible. The Bible has beautiful passages, and this is one of them. The reason this is his biggest mistake is because he's putting it right next, like he's putting this beautiful prose right next to his prose. And never before has this dichotomy been so strong. The flight lasted for hours. I'd grown tired of thinking, yeah, where's the Coke? People are asking, where is the Coke? I want to know too. Like, it just hasn't been brought up. Was it supposed to be her, like, she said she wasn't going to break out from the facility. Like, in her words, it would be pointless. Someone in chat just said, lolly Jesus, greater than Jesus. The flight lasted for hours. I'd grown tired of thinking hard and let my mind wander through simple memories. My time had run out. The important issues were settled. My name was written in the book. There was nothing left to do. I saw an aircraft carrier and its half-dozen support ships many miles in the distance, so this was the end. But strangely, I was not afraid. I was past that. "This is a refueling stop," said the nearest government man. "Our destination is further on." He got up and moved closer to me. "When we land, the plane stops with a jolt. It can break your neck. We have to get you ready." He and his partner got to work. They buckled the seatbelt across my hips. They stuffed large pillows in front of my legs until they were packed in so tightly they couldn't slip a hand in. "Raise your arms," I was told. I did, and they unrolled a long belt, wrapped it around the seat and my armpits, and secured it high on my chest. "Put your hands on your forehead." I did. "When we approach the deck, close your eyes and push back on your forehead hard, or you could break your neck. Can you remember that?" I nodded. We descended and slowed down. It was somewhat dramatic to watch the approach to the carrier deck. Few people had experienced this. 60 seconds, said the pilot over the intercom. Groups of sailors could be seen on the edge of the deck furthest from the landing strip. 30 seconds. The sailor, again, this obsession with precise time. It makes sense in this way, I guess. But, even the landings are not this precise. The sailors disappeared over the deck's edge, although they could keep their heads up to watch the landing. 15 seconds. I put my hands to my forehead. 5 seconds. I closed my eyes. The wheels hit the deck and squealed. The tailhooks snared a cable and the plane decelerated from 110 miles per hour to 0 in a second. The G-forces were incredible. It felt like a giant was trying to rip my arms out of their sockets. My head floated around a bit because I was dizzy. "You did well," said one of them. He came over to remove my chest harness and the pillows packed in front of my legs. A vehicle that looked like a small tanker truck rolled out and the plane was refueled. I'm going to refuel with water real quick. Then the plane taxied up to the catapult cable. The catapult was a large piston and cylinder hidden under the deck that was powered by steam. Why do we need to know this? When it was actuated, steam pushed the piston down the long cylinder, and the piston pulled a cable attached to a hook at the front of the plane. Why are you telling me this? The cable was attached. The engines were revved up to the max, and we took off from 0 to 120 miles per hour in 3.5 seconds. I was crushed back in my seat. No wonder the pilots liked the thrill of their job. "That was nothing," said the man to my left. "Wait till the jet take off." I rolled my eyes to heaven. These guys had to be crazy. Did they think I was enjoying this adventure? I was getting tired of it. It seemed like a week since they forced me out of the car. I just wanted to get this business done. Hurry up and nuke me. I checked my watch. 3 o'clock. It was another long, boring flight which left my tired mind nearly blank. I'd almost forgot. Someone just pointed out, this is all padding. It's all padding. Like, he said he trimmed this down from 1,300 pages to like 1,009 or something. What'd he say? It was like, here we go. 100, holy Jesus. Okay, 100,000, okay. 142, yeah, he lost 130 pages on the edit. This is the edit. This is after trimming. I checked my watch. 3 o'clock, yada, yada, yada. Through the blurry eyes, I saw the second carrier in the distance. The procedure was the same. Pillows were tightly packed in front of my legs. The chest harness was secured. I was reminded about closing my eyes and pushing back on my head. We landed with the same instant stop. This was the end of the line. They removed the pillows and belts and handed me the jumpsuit. I stepped in the aisle to put it on. Why are they giving her a jumpsuit? I picked up the garbage bag full of Coke bottles and followed the goons out the door. They let her take the garbage bags full of Coke bottles. That's just been with her. She's had it the whole time. No. Nope. 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 All right. Nope. We're not done. Ugh. Okay. Where are we? Okay. I picked up the garbage bag of Coke bottles and followed the goons out the door. The carrier had thousands of sailors, but they were all below except for a few men needed to handle the planes. There was a group of a dozen officers some distance away. The goons and I walked to them. The officers seemed shocked to see me. I guess they had not been told the person being executed was an 18-year-old girl who carries around a garbage bag full of Coke bottles. That's why everybody else was below deck. I could have caused a mutiny. We arrived at the group of officers and waited while the jet plane was prepared. The oldest-looking officer said, "They didn't tell me you were a girl." I was right. They hadn't known. Would it have made a difference? Probably not. Yeah, Coke bag for best character. The bottle of the bag full of Coke bottles is easily the most interesting character so far. Like, it just appeared. Alright, there were 3 female officers in this group. The captain probably thought the condemned man deserved a last look at females. The captain probably thought the condemned man deserved a last look at females. They wanted him to expand his dong one last time. One of the women asked my goons. That shouldn't be funny. What did she do? We don't know, ma'am. How long were you with her? Since yesterday morning, she hasn't said 50 words. But she did bring 12 Coke bottles. This triggered something in the young woman's brain. This triggered something in the young woman's brain. What? In her brain. Epiphany in her brain meets. I stole that from the oatmeal. That's not mine. She thought I should have the opportunity to say something in my defense. Nobody had been given a protocol, so this young woman pulled a cell phone from her pants pocket and boldly walked around the government men until she was almost in front of me. She held up the cell phone and activated the video mode. Do you have anything to say? She asked. I was nervous, but at this point I was more disgusted. They're allowing this? Like, this is chill with them. Like, no one's gonna stop her. I was nervous, but at this point I was more disgusted than nervous. This is the most stupid thing ever done. I'm glad I won't be here to see what happens. These are her last words. Or, well, not quite. Okay, a little bit more. She sounded disappointed. Is that all you have to say? My face softened. Yes, that was the wrong way to leave my family hanging. What? I once read a famous quote by the Shawnee Indian chief Tecumseh about singing a death song and going out like a hero. I had rewritten it for more universal use, never dreaming that I'd use it myself so soon. If people grieving your passage rejoice in the good you did and die like a hero going home. She was more than satisfied. People grieve your passing. Okay, that's why it was confusing. There's supposed to be a comma right here. If people grieve your passing, comma, rejoice in the good you did and die like a hero going home. She was more than satisfied with that. She was thrilled. Surely nothing better could be said. I'm so glad you said something good before you fucking die. One of the goons said, time to go. Everybody advanced to the jet. Whew. I climbed a ladder and awkwardly got into the cockpit, still carrying the garbage bag of Coke bottles. It's just... This is okay. This is okay. It's just like, why is she carrying... Like, nobody's stopped right now and just said, why is she carrying around Coke bottles? A seaman on another ladder on the other side of the plane reached into the cockpit to get an oxygen mask attached to a long plastic tube. He put it on to make sure it was working. This is oxygen. You'll need it up there. He explained and put the mask over my nose and mouth. An elastic strap around my head secured it in place. He waited a moment. Are you getting oxygen? I nodded. An X-shaped seat belt was attached to my seat near my shoulders and by my hips. This was 2 belts stitched together over my chest. Okay. Given my small size and this device's tight fit, besides its impracticality for escaping the plane quickly, I guess they designed it just for me. What? No! No, you're not special in this! Like, seats designed for individuals have been around since at least World War II. That's actually an interesting story. More interesting than this book. You guys want to talk about how design changed with seats? Okay, let's stay on topic. An X-shaped seatbelt was okay. The canopy was mounted on a heavy frame. The crewman lowered it like a closing clamshell and moved it forward. Something slid into place to lock the canopy. Is it enough to say that the they closed and latched the canopy? Yeah, why is, like, I think they need her alive for when she's nuked? Is there enough room for, like, hold on, where is the bag of Coke? Where is the garbage bag full of Coke in this situation? Is it at her feet? Is it on her lap? Does it have its own seat? Like, did they buckle in the bag full of Coke? Like, where is it? Is the pilot holding it for her? While all this was being done, the catapult cable was put down on the bow hook. Everything was ready. The crewmen climbed down and the ladders were removed. Here, how about this? I'll explain the history of, like, adjustable seats when I'm done with this chapter. Sound good? Okay. You aren't responding. It's delayed. So, the crewmen climbed down and ladders were removed. The officers disappeared into the conning tower? Is that a thing? Hold on. It is a thing. Okay. The superstructure of a what? The superstructure of a submarine. Oh, on a ship or submarine. Okay, gotcha. I learned something new today. Right, he was in the military, so he would have known this. Okay, that's where he's getting all this vocabulary. A couple minutes later, the jet engine of my plane started up. In 30 seconds, engine thrust reached a stable speed. They had to be checking it for problems by remote control sensors. The plane was freed and the catapult engaged. I was accelerated from 0 to 165 miles per hour in 2 seconds. The pressure on my back was unbelievable. The man had not exaggerated. The plane climbed steadily. There was no time to lose. I went to work immediately. First, all right, here we go. All right, your plan in action. Here we go. First, the seatbelt harness had to go. I felt around the belt attachments next to my hips for release buttons. I couldn't find any. The belt seemed to disappear into metal slots. It was the same at my shoulders. There was no time to waste looking for the release mechanism. I reached my right hand down to grasp the belt on my left hip. I pulled and pulled with ever-increasing force. The belt stretched and grew thinner until it snapped with a dull pop. I repeated the procedure on the belt next to my right hip with my left hand. This could not be worded any more boringly. Oh my god. Okay, I did the same with my belt attachments on my shoulders, pulling forward with both hands, my back pressing against the seat to provide a counterforce. The harness was free. It was much simpler to pull the stitched X in the middle apart. This gave me 2 belts. I tied 2 ends together to give me 1. Finally, I wrapped it around my waist and tied the other 2 ends together. This would keep the Coke bottles from moving below my waist. I wanted them to stay up around my chest. The jumpsuit had a zipper from the collar to the crotch. I unzipped it down to the makeshift belt. I checked the instrument panel. The important mechanical altimeter was easy to find. 11,320 feet, 2 miles. All right. I was doing well. I had time to do some of the bottles. What is going on? I grabbed the garbage bag of Coke bottles and put it in my lap. I uncapped a bottle, poured its contents on the floor, tore off a small piece of garbage bag, wrapped it over the opening of the empty bottle, and screwed the cap over the plastic-covered neck. That should make a watertight seal. The bottle went inside the jumpsuit under my left armpit. I did the same procedure with a second bottle, which went under my right armpit, and a third bottle went on my left side. A fourth bottle went on the right. The altimeter read 22,190 feet. I was doing great. Well, at least the answer of where the nuke was on the prop plane is answered. It's on this jet. More bottles were emptied, sealed with plastic and capped, and jammed into my jumpsuit. 11 bottles would provide enough buoyancy to keep my head well above water. The altimeter read 47,520 feet. I watched it carefully. It was nearly over. I thought once more of Steve, of the good times, of the funny moments, of the private hours. I now understood his purpose. He helped me walk over the unsteady ground to home. In him, I had a foretaste of the Father. This is, like, a little creepy. Is anyone else feeling that? The altimeter read 54,140 feet. It was time to go home. As a believer, I was sure I was immortal, and that gave me courage. I pulled off the oxygen mask and said a silent prayer in my head. Father, forgive me for all my sins. Take me into your house forever. I stood up on the seat and turned around to face the rear of the plane. The canopy was a few inches above my head. I pushed my hands up against it hard. It didn't budge. I increased the pressure and... Wait a minute. You're kidding me. How much pressure could I exert? I didn't know. There was never a reason to find out, but it must be enormous. The canopy was moving. Something somewhere was distorting. Metal or something was being stretched, torn, destroyed. The canopy suddenly flew off. The force of the air threw us back into our seats, and we all suffocated. The end. We're done. No, we're not done. I instantly covered my face with my arms as my body was sucked out of the plane. I somersaulted rapidly, head over heels. She just killed the people in the plane. I somersaulted rapidly, head over heels. I was very afraid, because leaving the plane guaranteed my death, but I was nowhere near panicking. I knew there was a better world after this one. The first thing I noticed was the complete silence. The scream of the jet had only lasted a few seconds. As the plane moved away, it quickly went silent, except for my breathing, which sent throat sounds through bone to my ear. There was absolutely no What? Except for my breathing, which sent throat sounds through bone to my ear. There was absolutely no sound. What? Except for my breathing, which sent throat sounds through bone to my ear. Like, I get what he's saying. But it's so ham-fisted. On the ground, there was always some background sound, even if a person wasn't aware of it. Up here, there was nothing. Wait a minute. No, she's falling, right? Like, she's falling. It's loud when you fall. The air is whipping past your ears. My fingers went numb in... Yeah, the extreme cold... Alright, the second thing I noticed was the extreme cold. My fingers went numb in seconds. Without the jumpsuit, I might already be dead. The bomb went off miles away. The light was so intense I could see through the flesh of my arms. As I fell, the air temperature climbed rapidly. Yeah, she's falling. It should be really loud. Throat sounds. A minute after leaving the plane, it was no longer cold enough to suck the heat right through my jumpsuit. I was keeping some of the heat. We'd like to welcome you to the Clan of Redundancy Clan, Norman. I still somersaulted widely. I took my hands off my face, but kept my eyes shut. Films of skydivers showing them stretch their arms and legs out with knees slightly bent and arms back past the plane of the torso. This had the effect of a badminton shuttlecock to keep the body falling true. I stretched out my arms and legs. Momentum from the somersaulting kept my body turning over in all kinds of angles, but the turning was slowing down. Finally, I stopped turning over. My body was in a stable, face-down position. The air temperature had passed into tolerable territory. Okay, I open my eye. God, like, this is supposed to be such an intense moment, and I just don't care. The air temperature passed into tolerable territory. I opened my eyes slightly, just enough to see something. The clouds were still far below. I closed my eyes for a while. I opened my eyes again and saw the cotton ball clouds just below. It appeared I was going to pass between two of them, somewhat close to me. I reached the top of the cloud layer, fell between the half-mile thick clouds, and finally I was below them. Oh, okay? I'd been falling for minutes. Choppy waves in the thousands were visible on the ocean's surface. The strong wind that buffeted my hair on the carrier deck stirred the water. I was glad to see the waves. They made it possible to know exactly when I'd hit the water. The waves appeared larger every second. Their approach seemed to speed up, and I knew there were only seconds left. Once again, I covered my face with my arms. My body made a hard belly flop. I was knocked out. And she's dead. Like, you're dead. You don't survive a belly flop from that height. Like, you reach terminal velocity, you belly flop, you die. You splat. Apparently not. The waves brushing my face were stimulating. I regained consciousness. It was the South Atlantic, far below the equator, and for the southern hemisphere, June was like December in the north. The water was ice cold. The water is of a similar temperature year-round, Norman. Jesus Christ. My feet and ankles hurt, but there was no escaping it. I started whimpering. The cold sank deeper into my bones. I yelled and thrashed the water. It got worse and worse. Now I was close to panic and screamed. Dying was bad enough. How painful would this get? In a couple of minutes, my lower legs went numb. The skin all over... Except none of this matters because she died when she hit the water. The skin all over my body was losing nervous sensation. My screaming stopped to be replaced by intermittent whimpering and groans. It was nearly over now. I quieted down. It was time. All accounts were settled. All debts were paid. I had no more use for this world. I passed out. No. Jesus Christ. This just keeps going. Like, it's so repetitive. It's just the action. Constantly. Like, when I say action constantly, I mean like just this happened, then this happened, then this happened. This is what I sounded like at an elementary school writing level, with a couple of big words. Right, so I did promise to give chair facts. So I'm totally aping off of 99% Invisible, by the way. So this is the story of adjustable chairs, which is far more interesting than Empress Theresa. So wait, hold on, wait a minute. Stop. Before I start, where'd the Coke bottles go? Like, was she using them for buoyancy? Bex is right, but she was cute as heck. All right, so I think it was World War II. Pilots were getting shot down like crazy, and they couldn't figure out why. Like, they were manufacturing planes as quickly as they could, and around I think it was World War II. It might have been World War I, but I'm pretty sure it's II. So around this time, the idea of the census had become very popular. So, taking averages of everyone's, measurements, height, weight, length of, their arms, all like measurements all over their body. And so what they did was they would design seats for aircraft based on the average male, because women wouldn't fight in the wars yet. So just the average male. And their pilots kept dying. And then one person had this interesting idea. What if, like, they decided to see how accurate were the averages. So the averages were accurate, obviously, but he started doing studies. He took specific measurements from people to see how many perfectly average people there were, and there were none. 0 people had average measurements, which meant they were making seats in their planes for the average human, like for the average male, they were making a seat that fit literally nobody. And so they started making adjustable seats. And that way, they could make all the adjustments they needed for their body. And suddenly, the American air pilots started doing a lot better. Okay, after World War I, but before World War II. Thanks, Karnath. But yeah, that is how adjustable seats came to be a thing. Yeah, I listened to 99. I mentioned at the beginning of that. I'm aping this from 99% Invisible. I find it terribly interesting. So that was my reprieve from Empress Theresa. Jesus Christ. I've been doing this for 2 hours and 45 minutes. It looks like the chapters are getting shorter. You guys seeing that? Yeah, I find this kind of thing terribly interesting. Like, it's such a weird little story, right? Okay, well, we'll do one more chapter, I think. We technically have 3 more chapters and Blair's defense. You know? I'm curious about what Blair's defense is. Yeah, Prime Minister Blair. Oh god, my voice. It's cracking. Ugh. Okay. Author's note. Chapter 6. Author's note. Prime Minister Blair asked the BBC to show a montage of news films to show Theresa what had been going on the previous 2 weeks. President Martin suddenly resigned in the middle of the night because he believed his action had condemned the human race to slow, miserable death by starvation. Chapter 7, not shown in this look inside, will be about Theresa's Sunday night talk with Prime Minister Blair on live television, viewed by 4 billion people to try to find out what Hal is and what can be done about the crisis. Chapter 6. I was getting depressed. This BBC program had been giving me nothing but bad news. Did anything go right in the world? The United States was also in a terrible mood. Just, you know, the United States. Like the people, the country. No, just the country. It had also been assumed a man with the willpower to become president would never suddenly resign without a fight. President Nixon had resigned after being under tremendous pressure for 2 years. President Martin simply walked away. Commentators agreed it wasn't another shock in a horrible week, but we shouldn't be so surprised. The poor guy had condemned the world to a slow, miserable death. There was no chance he would be allowed to stay in office. Yeah, I propose we ascend garbage bag full of Coke to president. The real MVP. President Martin's unprecedented sudden resignation with no warning was another oh my fucking god. How redundant can you get? President Martin's unprecedented sudden resignation with no warning was another indicator that the world was in a real mess. I must have made some of my trademarked funny faces. My trademarked funny face? What? Trademarked funny faces because Nancy laughed. I told her, I wish I could walk away from his mess. An 18-year-old girl with no experience in anything has to save the world from extermination. Good luck, everybody. What? Vice President Veronica Stinson was sworn in as president at 4 o'clock in the morning. Her first televised statement showed she was shaken. She said something about how we all had to pull together and do what we could. It was something like that. I didn't pay much attention. I was shook up myself. Somehow all this disastrous mess had something to do with me. If I had told people about Hal years ago, would any of this have happened? That was my burden. The program wasn't over. There were more surprises. The captain of the ship that found me in the South Atlantic had given a statement last night when I arrived in England. His statement was taped when I was being driven by ambulance to London, a fair distance from shore. His ship was the newest British aircraft carrier. Okay. As the BBC announcer explained, the program was quickly put together for me. I needed to know everything so that I could guess what Hal might be thinking all this time and why he did what he did. The captain's detailed statement was given in its entirety along with videos. Why are they just assuming she's watching the program? There's so many assumptions being made. We sailed with partial crews. Many sailors were visiting their homes all over England and couldn't be called back in time for this panicked rush to the South Atlantic. It was a fool's mission. It had taken 70 years to find the Titanic, although it was known where it sank. Now we were being asked to find a tiny body, which almost certainly sank, that may have been moved 100 miles or more by ocean currents in any direction. Madness, I thought. In the beginning of the voyage, we had to plow through 10 to 15-foot swells typical of the North Atlantic in June. The ship's rolling motion was comforting to sailors who loved the rockabye baby sensation. What the fuck are you on about? But in the last 2 days, the ship felt virtually motionless as it skimmed on water as smooth as plate glass. It was unnerving. The Queen Elizabeth was 120 miles from target at dawn when the radar screen operator said, "Something unusual ahead, sir." As in, what? How can they tell something's unusual on radar? Is that like... What? I looked at the radar screen. An indistinct horizontal smudge could be seen. How wide is it, I asked. "A mile, sir. Can only be birds. Must be a million of them." I considered how this could come about. Perhaps nuclear radiation killed a lot of fish. If so, and Theresa's body was floating, she drifted with the fish. We might find her after all. Except that's not how radiation works, but you know, whatever. "Lay a course for that flock of birds," I said. Lay a course for that flock of birds. So, I remember way back in the day, I'd play Halo on the PC, and my friend's cousin would, like, my friends and I all had a tradition of naming ourselves, like, utterly ridiculous things. And one of the things that we named our characters was a flock of seagulls. So, if we ever got a kill, it was you were splattered by a flock of seagulls. You were killed by a flock of seagulls. It was kind of glorious. Okay, anyway. I needed a distraction for a moment. An hour later, the sun was several diameters above the horizon. It was full light. On every ship, sailors not on duty were on deck to see this once-in-a-lifetime sight. Some passed around small, cheap binoculars bought in department stores, and some had video cameras waiting for a remarkable recording opportunity. 2 more hours passed. I ordered a helicopter to fly ahead and take a closer look. It was soon close to the scene, but not close enough to have its blades fouled by the birds. The helicopter crew looked down with binoculars and saw something never beheld by human eyes. "Captain, it's a school of sharks. There are tens of thousands of them. The water is red." It was a massive feeding frenzy. As we came nearer, shark fins appeared briefly on the surface. They were all swimming toward the frenzy's bloody waters, which had spread out for many miles. It had been going on for days, and the sharks could smell the blood from a great distance. I recognized the cursed white tips on the rounded dorsal fins. Bloody ocean white tips, the scourge of seamen. Unlike the great white shark that stayed close to coastlines, the oceanic white-tipped shark spanned the oceans. It killed more people than all other types of sharks combined. You don't need to do exposition like that. It's okay. A dozen miles from the frenzy, we slowed down to lower speeds until we reached the frenzy, where we stopped to consider our next strategy. The frenzy was about 400 yards wide, and the carrier was stopped on the edge. The sea was red with blood everywhere and around the ship. Through binoculars, I could see sharks fighting over pieces of dead sharks. They were eating each other. Except they wouldn't do that because they had plenty of food. I like assuming that they're eating fish. I searched the center of the frenzy where the activity was greatest. "God in heaven, have mercy on us," I shouted. "Theresa Hartley is in the middle of it." Ooh. Sharks were lunging at the unconscious Theresa, but were being killed before they could get a bite of her. Other sharks fed on the bleeding dead. This nightmare had been going on for days. I ordered a launch. Okay, this is weird. I ordered a launch be lowered and 20 machine gunners to the deck. The launch was lowered with 6 sailors. It set off towards Theresa, but it would not be safe to pull her out of the water with a crowd of sharks lunging at them. I ordered the machine gunners to fire at the sharks. Officers kept them firing to the left and right of Theresa, but no closer than 50 yards from her, unless they hit her or the launch. It was only necessary to wound one of the monsters, and its blood drew attack from others. Except that's not how sharks work. Stop. Okay. You guys are all about to get book learned a little bit here. So, when a shark dies, something really unique happens. When a shark dies, it releases a pheromone into the water. This pheromone is only released when a shark dies. And that pheromone, can be picked up from a great distance. Like it'll float around and it naturally repels sharks. So what happened a little while ago is that killer whales were killing, like they discovered how to kill sharks and they were hunting them. Like orcas were killing great whites and there were no sharks in the area. Like nobody understood why. And then they realized that the killer whales, the orcas were predating. They were hunting sharks and this pheromone was being released in the water and the sharks wouldn't come anywhere near it. And it was actually messing up their migration. And recently, a shark repellent has been created using that hormone. It works to keep them away. So maybe that's just great white sharks. It could just be great white sharks, but I don't think it is. Which means that none of this makes sense. Preying upon. All right, thanks, Vaguely Human. Anyway, it's possible that, like, white-tip oceanic sharks don't have this compulsive response, but I suspect that they do. Anyway, let's go on. It was only necessary to wound one of the monsters and its blood drew attack from others. Thousands of rounds were fired per minute, but only a small fraction of the sharks were being killed. Many times as many sharks swimming deeper down were coming up to the surface to join the frenzy. The slaughter was working. There were 2 areas of mayhem, safe distances from Theresa. By the time the launch got to her, there were only a few confused sharks nearby, and they weren't attacking. Theresa was unconscious. Her head and shoulders were above water. 2 men pulled her into the boat, and they headed back to the ship. She was placed in a large basket on a cable and hauled up to the deck as quickly as possible. She was rushed inside the carrier to sickbay. The jumpsuit was unzipped. 2 electrocardio leads were placed on her to see if there was any cardiac activity at all. There was no activity, no signs of life. The doctor pronounced her dead. Thank Jesus. The screen returned to a BBC announcer. Next we hear Prime Minister Blair. Ah, crap. I'm spilling water everywhere. Peter Blair came on the screen. He was reading from notes. Good evening, Mrs. Hartley. You asked to be told everything related to Hal. What I have to present involves his activity. I'll be complete. They are broadcasting this to the world after they tried so hard to keep this secret. Like, they're doing this just so they can, like, get this to her. Holy Jesus. When I heard you were dead, the tears leaked from my eyes. This was pre-written. This was written on a card for Prime Minister Blair to read. The tears leaked from my eyes. So much hope crushed. As a staff member said, it was a heroic effort, Prime Minister. Her family will be grateful. I said, thank you. We are all lost, ladies and gentlemen. Without you, there was no possibility of communicating with the alien. The ship set off for home. Your empty bottles were found in your suit, and we learned how you remained afloat. Of course, when you were... Like, okay, wouldn't they recognize that the bottles were acting as a flotation device immediately? We learned how you remained afloat. Like, as if they had to dedicate resources and research to figure out that it was the empty Coke bottles that kept her afloat. The Coke bottles are the real hero. But, like, seriously, are these, like, stealth bottles? Why can nobody see them? She snuck them aboard a plane, 3 different times. Of course, oh my fucking God. Of course, when you were on the Ronald Reagan, I'm guessing that's the name of a ship, nobody would have believed you could escape the plane, so nobody was suspicious of anything you carried on board. I thought they knew she had super strength. Like, isn't that, like, didn't they know that? You were allowed to carry the garbage bag of bottles without anybody giving it a thought. Oh. We are given an official explanation. Because everyone underestimated her. Apparently. Oh. The reason for wanting to remain afloat was easy to guess. A woman doesn't mind dying so much if she knows her body will be preserved. What does this mean? What does this mean? A woman doesn't mind dying so much if she knows her body will be preserved. Like, can we confirm that? Is this an accurate statement? Are there any females in the audience who can confirm this? Your Senate committee called Ronald Reagan Commander Admiral Rooktsuk, who had been told to stay in the Virginia area in case he was needed. Here is his testimony after you were found. The scene changed to a video of a large Senate hearing room. Admiral Rook was nervous when he sat at the Senate's hearing witness table. In the eyes of many, he was largely responsible for my death. Senator Clay began. Admiral, we already know the circumstances of June 13th. Before we go into the details, I would like to ask if Theresa Hartley could have been rescued after she entered the ocean water. I can confirm. Alright, we have confirmation from the females. Excellent. Admiral Rook held up a piece of paper. I have a written answer to that question which I believe will clarify the situation. May I read it? Go ahead. There is a remote possibility Theresa Hartley could have been saved if we had immediately sent out a fighter jet. The pilot could have reached her in 10 minutes, and in the unlikely event he saw her while flying low at 200 miles an hour, he could have bailed out with a small raft, put her in the raft to get her out of the cold water, and she might have been revived when the helicopters came. But all this would have required my knowing... This is nonsense! None of this is building anything! Like, I'm not interested. It's not building the world. Like, what is being achieved? All right, you guys ready? Hashtag don't be Norm. When you are writing, every time you write, like everything that you write, make sure there is a reason for it. Make sure there's a purpose. It could be characterization. It could be, like, significant world building. It could be plot progression. But make sure that everything you write has a reason. Because otherwise you end up with this drivel that does not build on the world. It does not build on the plot, the scene, nothing. This is exposition, but it's useless exposition. We gain nothing. I did not know that Hal had stopped the wind and waves around her, causing the radio to go silent and leading me to believe she had sunk as any unconscious person in turbulent waters would have to do. I did not know that Hal had gotten her out of the plane and might be doing more to keep her alive. I could only believe the government had arranged for the fighter jet canopy to open up and let her get out of the plane, although what reason they had to do this was unknowable to me. What the hell are you on about? He's a general, right? Or is he an admiral? Admirable Rook. Hey, he's an admiral. Like, you don't get to be an admiral by being a moron. I could only believe the government had arranged for the firejet can be opened. I did not know about Theresa Hartley's connection to Hal until 1.5 hours later when the president spoke on television. By then it was long too late to save her. Because I didn't know all these things... Oh, this is... What? What? No. What? Why is this apostrophe backwards? How did he do that? No. That's not right. Okay. Because I didn't know all these things at the time it mattered, I have to say it was not possible to save her. You could have just said, it's not possible to save her. It wasn't. That's it. Good. Now the world knows about Hal. You're working so hard to keep it a secret, and now you're just broadcasting it. Genie ass. This is fecking genie ass. Hold on. No, I'm not going to do that. He looked up at the chairman to give a heartbreaking remark. When I saw it was a girl, it was too late to change my mind. What could I do with her with 6,000 people on the ship? I hate using cliches, but in this case, there really wasn't a dry eye in the room. It was a pitiful scene. No. No. I just remembered I could F11. This is not a pitiable scene. This sounds like an admiral covering his ass. Guy, like Norman, you have, like, this man must be an alien if he thinks that this was a touching, heartbreaking scene. Like, it's unreal. Yeah, fuck you, hate using cliches. Right. I can't believe some people remembered that, but that's right. Let's see, where is it? Hold on. What was it? It was author's review. Or no, it was chapter 1. It's cliche to put a murder, explosion, or something of that nature on page 1. And yet, wasn't a dry eye in the room. Ooh, good catch, guys. A long list of questions followed about how Admiral Rook was given this assignment, what President Martin said to him, and who else knew about the operation. The Admiral looked like a broken man. Finally, the chairman said, "Thank you for testifying, Admiral." Prime Minister Blair came back on screen. "Your death made most people give up hope. Universal starvation could not be prevented. The end times had come." Nancy had mentioned that Blair majored in literature in college, and it showed. No. Excuse me. It doesn't. No, it doesn't. Norm. No. No, you cannot write and then just assume that it sounds like what a lit major would write. No, you can't do that. No. You have to have the writing to back it up. No. You do not get to say that your writing is like that of a lit major. Nancy had mentioned that Blair majored in literature in college, and it showed. He spoke dramatically. Not gonna lie, I was an English major. Nobody I knew spoke dramatically unless it was like Hammy. No. Just because you're a lit major doesn't mean that you can speak well. I can attest to this. Nancy said he always talked like he was in a Shakespearean play. Maybe he was grandstanding. These days would be remembered for a long time. Grandstanding is hard to resist, I guess, and maybe I'd do it myself before all this was over. The world settled in for the long wait for the HMS Queen Elizabeth to return to England. Somber music was played on radio day and night. A favorite selection was Saint-Saëns The Swan for cello and piano, made famous by Russian ballet as the Dying Swan. Why does he keep, plugging some of his favorite stuff? Have you guys noticed that? So obviously he likes Coke. Coca-Cola. I mean, I don't know. Maybe he does snort Coke. But, now he's getting very specific about, a Russian ballet and, what else? Hal from 2001. What else? There have to have been more. It just keeps happening. The most appropriate piece for the girl descended from the Irish was a soulful instrumental version of Danny Boy. It was perfect. Great Britain was proud to bring one of its own back home for a final visit, but for most of the world there was no consolation. Dreams of a good future were gone. There was nothing to look forward to but misery or death. Parents spent all the time they could with their children. Mothers held their children and cried, wondering why this horror was happening. The HMS Queen Elizabeth anchored near the coast of southern England while you were moved to shore by helicopter. You were put in an ambulance for the long ride to London. Boy howdy, this character does sure seem to speak in the voice of Norman, doesn't he? I waited in a London hospital to receive you. I had to be there. It would be an insult to America if I wasn't, but I wanted to be there. I felt it was my duty to pay respects to this important personage. Wait, oh my god! He's making an excuse. I had to be there. It would be an insult to America if it wasn't, but I wanted to be there. These speeches sound like nothing but politicians covering their asses. None of this is heartfelt. I felt it was my duty to pay respects to this important personage. I was also curious to see you. When the ambulance was 2 miles from the hospital, I went down to the morgue where doctors and nurses waited. There would not be an autopsy. That was left to the Americans, but the English did want to make a careful examination. From somewhere in London, American soldiers had been found to carry the casket in. An American flag covered the casket as it was rolled into the morgue. The honor guard of U.S. soldiers removed the flag and took it away. The doctors moved you from the casket to an exam table. This level of detail is not necessary. It's been nearly 14 days, Prime Minister, said the chief doctor. This won't be pleasant. I've seen it before, I said. This is being spoken on live television. This is the rhetorical situation. He is just quoting them. Oh. Is this memes? I'm not sure anymore. Okay. Everybody moved closer. You were remarkably well preserved. In fact, you were in great shape. It soon dawned on us. You were perfectly preserved. You might have died 30 seconds ago. We looked at each other. Every person was afraid to say it. Could Theresa be alive? The chief doctor sees an ophthalmoscope. So, ophthalmoscope. So, another point, Norman served as a doctor in the army. This is something I forgot to mention. So I said he served as a captain and then as a doctor. So doctors hold the rank of captain, so they can order people like, I order you to get bed rest, like that kind of thing. And it's disobeying orders if you don't follow it, or they just retain their level of they retain their rank if they become a doctor. Anyway, So I messed that up. So he was a doctor in the army. This is why he's getting so specific about a few things. It's because he knows these specific few things and he figures it'll elevate his writing if he can take advantage of it. The problem is it comes out in in the most random places. You just randomly get these little bits of vocabulary or information, and it does not flow well with the rest of the story. It's just he thinks that having this info is going to make his story better. What's going to make his story better is good writing. All right. Ranking Doctor protested, I don't care how advanced these beings are, no technology can keep her alive this way. I waited a moment to give the doctor's comment due respect. Then I said, why not? Every atom needs to be kept in its proper place. Her body uses all the space available. There's no way to get to the atoms. Quite right, Doctor, but if she dies, we are all lost. Everybody stared at the doctor. He knew he'd lost. Put her in a patient room. The room was heated to 105 degrees. The theory was that if your body temperature returned to normal, your heart would automatically start beating. Much argument ensued among the doctors about what resuscitation procedures to use. It was decided to use none except as a desperate last resort. They didn't know what Hal was doing. Any interference on their part might be harmful. So, I'd like to say something that I truly believe in, in my heart. There is no such thing as a good concept. There's only good writing. There are bad concepts, don't get me wrong, but a good concept executed poorly is just bad writing. This is a bad concept with bad writing. But if he could write better, he might be able to make something salvageable out of it. But he thought he had, in his... So I want to give, an anecdotal experience. I noticed when I was looking at so he posted this on forums trying to get criticism, and people were talking about the writing, saying, oh, no, the writing's not good here. You need, these are the things you need to do to fix it. Hashtag don't be Norm. Don't be Norman. His rebuttal to all of these criticisms against his writing was propping up the concept, saying, you just don't like the concept, or the concept is good, I don't see what the problem with it is, and people just could not get it through to him that the problem wasn't the concept, though there were problems with it. The core problem was the writing. And that he did not have the craft to back up his idea. I think that this is often the case with delusional artists. They think they have a great idea, and they have to get it out to the world. They absolutely have to. But you know what? If you have the idea, it's not going anywhere. You can hold on to that idea as long as you need to, and wait until you have the writing skills to make it a reality. You have your whole life to do it. You don't have to do it now. The concept will not carry itself if your writing is bad. All right, that's my hashtag don't be Norman PSA. So, the doctor in charge explained, we're not even going to take a blood sample. If anything is wrong with it, there's nothing we can do. There's no circulation. I nodded my understanding. There is one more concern, Prime Minister. Some molecules of the body become denatured when subjected to low temperatures. It's irreversible. She may revive briefly, only to die later. When will we know? Very quickly. He is speaking this on television. This is someone looking into a camera and saying this. Very quickly. It would be like radiation sickness. She would become nauseous within the hour, weaken, and die. We could do nothing to stop it. Thank you for informing me. If such were the case, I'd have to get as much information out of you as possible in a short time. It would be a very unpleasant situation. The room was filled with every kind of diagnostic and monitoring equipment I could imagine, and some whose purpose I couldn't guess. Wires from your body led to a monitor to display temperature, an electrocardiogram machine to detect heartbeat, and an electroencephalogram machine to monitor brain waves. All these machines registered nil. Holy shit. I placed my phone in a weird position, and it vibrated, and freaked me out. Okay. Your temperature was 56 degrees, up from 48 when you arrived at the hospital. It would take many hours to reach 98 degrees. Something had to be done to the people in the morning, but first I had to deal with the husband. Get Steve Hartley on the phone, I ordered. The connection was made after a representative at Steve's apartment told him to put the phone on the hook. Mr. Hartley, this is Prime Minister Blair. We have some rather startling news. Your wife arrived in absolutely perfect physical condition. It has been suggested that she is alive and can be revived. When will this happen? I'd like to point out, this is her husband. This is the first thing he says. It's not, oh my god, is she okay? He's not freaking out. He's not dumbfounded. It's just, when will this happen? If it happens, and we're not sure it will happen in 12 or more hours. Again, he's saying this on TV. Her temperature is 58 degrees. The room is heated to 105 degrees to raise her temperature naturally. The doctors don't want to do anything unless she doesn't revive by herself. We already went over this, Norman. We already went over this. We already discussed this. We know what she's doing. We know what the doctors are doing. Norman! You could have summed this up to say, I gave him the plan. I told him our plan. Damn it, I dropped my phone again. It's just not enough to say it once. It's like he thinks his plot is genius. Resuscitation techniques will only be used as a final measure if all else fails. And he does think his, ow, oh god, my funny bone. Oh, ow, Jesus. Oh, Theresa. Oh, that hurt. Okay, we're okay. We're okay. Will she still be the same Theresa? That, sir, is unpredictable. It would be... What? It would be sad to see her a vegetable. Oh, God. I can't... Oh. Oh. It would be sad to see her a vegetable. Yes. That's the Prime Minister's response. It would be sad to see her a vegetable. Yes. Would you do me a favor? I can't get over the vegetable bit. It would be sad to see her a vegetable. Oh. Would you do me a favor? Ask people to pray for her. God can't ignore 100 million people. I don't know. He ignored the Templars. Deus vult. He can't. We shall be insistent. In many hours, your temperature reached 93 degrees. I had been visiting your room only 20 minutes at a time because of the heat, but now I remained. A nurse gave me a glass of ice water to sip. You reached 94.2 degrees. Excuse me. The cardiac monitor registered a single heartbeat and returned to a flat line. And nobody freaked out? Nobody did anything? That just happened. Nobody went, oh my god, there was a heartbeat. They just chilled. You've been so, specific about what people have been doing. You've spared no expense. And they just sat there. The seconds ticked off. 22 seconds, and there was another solitary heartbeat. The count resumed. 12 more seconds, and a third heartbeat registered, followed 2 seconds later by a steady heartbeat. We don't need the specificity. It's the same problems cropping up over and over again. Your heart was functioning. A minute went by. Your chest heaved in what looked like the breath of death. which is real, a final reflexive breath before the body gives up. After a delay of a few seconds, your breathing resumed normally. All attention was now on the electroencephalograph monitor. If your brain didn't work, there was no artificial way to resuscitate it. It was all up to you. And there it was. 2 of the 12 monitor lines were wiggling. Soon, all lines were wiggling. Could you not think of a better word? There are dozens of better words. Moving. Writhing. Fucking, like, that'd be a bad one, but, scribbling. Scrawling. Fucking, you could come up with dozens. And you chose wiggling. You chose this word. This was your choice. Everything seemed to be working. A few minutes later, you started squirming like somebody in a dream. Your eyes opened and you started loudly crying. I understood. You were remembering that terrible ordeal of freezing in the water. Well, of course, to you it seemed a moment before. How had we failed to anticipate this? Someone did, and it wasn't you. Blair stopped for a moment and then said, "The rest you know. I know you're the right person. I'll see you in 20 minutes. If he's going to see her in 20 minutes, why is he giving the speech on live television? Oh. Ooh. Ooh. Oh, Norman. Oh, Norm. What had Hal done? Blair promised his presentation would show what Hal did, but I didn't see anything. What did Hal do? I asked Nancy. You didn't need to say this. He just let me revive myself. Does Hal even know what happened? Nancy looked at me with that doe's eyes and the headlights expression. Commentators took over on the television screen. One said, "How does the Prime Minister know Mrs. Hartley is the right person to restore the wind? Does she have communication with the alien? What haven't we been told?" It was a good question. Maybe? Blair already knew from the way I acted on the hospital balcony that I didn't even know about the wind business. He could not be sure I could do something about it. Then I remembered something. When I woke up in the hospital, Blair said I was the right kind of person to do what we needed. You're telling me she revived, and you did not tell her what she'd gone through. You did not tell her anything. You waited until she was gone so you could tell her on live television, and not in person. You are 50 kinds of shitting me. You are shitting me out of 50 different asses. This made no sense. This line. This made no sense. This line. This line could have been the whole book. That's it. This made no sense if he meant restoring the wind. I'm sorry, sometimes I just need a few moments. Let's see, anybody could do that if it could be done. What? Anybody could do that if it could be done. No. 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 It doesn't. This line makes no sense. Nothing makes sense. This made no sense. Oh, fuck, I lost my place. Where am I? Hold on. All right, actually, no, wait a minute. No, I can do this. This made no sense. You are correct, Norman. What he meant was, I would be the right kind of person after the wind situation was fixed. If I could influence how to restore the wind, I could influence him to do other things later. What kind of person I was would be very important. I told Nancy, he's not talking about the wind. He's talking about what I'll do later. He knows I won't mess up the world like a world dictator. You literally this is redundant. I see, said the suddenly aware Nancy. It's an amazing concept. No, it's not. Your prime minister knew it 1 minute after I woke up. He's a smart man. This guy really likes Prime Minister Blair. Blair's job was to guide me in assuming great responsibilities without messing things up. He had to be very worried. How could a 40-something Englishman connect with an 18-year-old American girl? It was like I was the alien from space. I thought this was funny and repeated it to Nancy. Poor Blair. Dealing with me must be like dealing with a space alien. This line is completely redundant. Norman. All right, hashtag don't be Norman. Always assume your readership is smart. If someone says they said something, you don't have to say it again. You don't have to write it again. This quotation is unimportant. I get it. This concept is so important to him that he needs to chronicle it like a history. That's why he's doing these quotes multiple times. That's why he's having characters repeat back what had happened in their voice. It's because he feels that this concept is so important, that this story is so important, that he has to make sure that every detail is recorded as if it were the Bible. Oh, I understand now. I repeat, there is no such thing as a good concept. She laughed. Yeah, well, poor me. I had to deal with a real alien who was destroying the world, and everybody expected me to save them. Just another day in a girl's life. Cliché. I hung around for a few minutes and went downstairs. When I got out of the elevator, some government men pointed the way to the meeting room. All of humanity had been sweating blood all day waiting to hear what I had to say. The earth stood still cliches. Baseball games in America had been postponed. Why baseball? Why baseball specifically? Highways were deserted. Plane flights were canceled for lack of passengers. Every person who could by any means stay home watching television did. Okay. This was the critical meeting. If nothing came out of it, we are all lost. We are all lost, everyone. Oh. All right. Not baseball. Okay. I think now is when we draw everything to a close. I have been reading Norman's prose, for lack of a better term, for 3.5 hours. And I leave you with this. We are all lost. All of us are lost. So, what's coming up on the channel? Okay, I'm done. I'm done with Norman for today. So it's coming up on the channel. The reason I wanted to do a stream today is because the Down the Rabbit Hole is going to be delayed another week. Next Saturday, I'm going to be uploading the pilot episode of the Grimm Archives, which is kind of like Down the Rabbit Hole, but with pretty animation, and done by a British animator who does stuff for the BBC. We did a episode. I think it's inferior to the one that we did, but I think it's still worth posting. So that's going up next Saturday with some minor changes, and then the Saturday after that is planned the next Down the Rabbit Hole. So that's what's coming up. It's over. We can all take a deep breath, for we are all lost. Thank you, everyone. That's going up next Saturday. Oops. I clicked out onto the page, accidentally unmuted it. All right. Bye, everyone.